What if you could stop leg cramps in seniors instantly, just by adding 3 specific foods to your diet? Imagine waking up in the middle of the night, your legs suddenly seizing up in excruciating pain, and there's nothing you can do but lie there, helpless, waiting for the cramp to pass. For millions of seniors, this isn't just a nightmare, it's a nightly routine. The pain is unbearable, and the frustration can feel endless. But what if I told you there was a way to stop those cramps before they even begin? What if I told you that the solution wasn't a complicated medicine or a costly treatment, but rather, it could be as simple as adding 3 foods to your diet? It sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? But this is exactly what Sarah, a devoted caregiver to her elderly father, discovered one night when she was at her wit's end. Sarah had always been a hands-on caregiver. Her father, Jack, had been her rock growing up, and now it was her turn to take care of him. But as Jack aged, his health began to decline in ways Sarah never expected. It started with a few forgetful moments here and there, then came the occasional aches and pains. But the worst was the leg cramps. They came suddenly, without warning, usually at night, waking both of them from their sleep. Jack would wake up screaming in pain, clutching at his calves, and Sarah would try everything she could think of to soothe him. Stretching, massaging, heating pads, the works. But the cramps wouldn't go away, and neither of them could get a full night's rest. One particular evening, after Jack had once again suffered through a debilitating leg cramp that lasted for what felt like an eternity, Sarah was exhausted. She could barely keep her eyes open from lack of sleep, and the emotional toll was starting to show. Seeing her father in pain made her feel powerless, and she wasn't sure how much longer either of them could keep going like this. The constant anxiety of when the next cramp would strike was wearing them both down. That night, as Sarah sat in the kitchen, trying to distract herself with a cup of tea, she decided to do something she hadn't done in a while. She turned to the internet. Desperation has a way of sparking action, even if it means diving into the world of Google for answers. She typed, "foods to stop leg cramps in seniors," into the search bar, half expecting to find the usual mix of remedies and quick fixes that never seemed to work. But this time, something caught her attention. There it was, 3 foods that can stop leg cramps fast in seniors. The article promised to reveal how the right combination of foods could help prevent and relieve leg cramps, and it offered scientific explanations to back it up. Intrigued, Sarah clicked on the link. The article explained how certain nutrients, potassium, magnesium, and calcium, played a crucial role in muscle function and could help prevent the involuntary contractions that caused leg cramps. It also mentioned specific foods rich in these nutrients, foods that could be easily incorporated into daily meals. Bananas, spinach, sweet potatoes. As Sarah read through the article, her hope began to build. Could it really be this simple? Could adding a few foods to her father's diet actually make a difference? She'd tried so many remedies, but nothing had worked so far. The idea that she could stop Jack's leg cramps with just a few simple ingredients was both exciting and almost unbelievable. She quickly made a plan. The next day, she went to the store and bought the 3 foods mentioned in the article: bananas, spinach, and sweet potatoes. They seemed easy enough to incorporate into her father's meals, and Sarah felt a sense of cautious optimism that maybe, just maybe, this would finally work. That evening, Sarah prepared dinner for herself and Jack. She made a hearty spinach salad with roasted sweet potatoes on the side. She also added banana slices to their dessert. She wasn't sure if it would work right away, but she had nothing to lose at this point. After dinner, she made sure Jack drank plenty of water, as staying hydrated was another tip she found in her research. Jack had always been a fan of water, but Sarah now knew it was even more important for him to stay properly hydrated, especially given his age and the risk of muscle cramps. That night, they both went to bed hoping for the best but expecting the worst. Sarah lay in bed, listening to the quiet hum of the house, her thoughts racing. Was this really going to work? Would she finally be able to give her father the relief he so desperately needed? Just as Sarah was beginning to drift off, she heard a sound, the unmistakable, sharp cry of someone in pain. Jack was awake. His legs were cramping again. But this time, something was different. He wasn't screaming in agony. He wasn't clutching his calves in the usual frenzy of pain. Instead, he let out a small groan, then relaxed back onto his pillow. "It's not so bad tonight," he muttered, half asleep. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Was the meal she'd prepared having an effect already? She didn't know for sure, but she allowed herself a moment of relief. Perhaps, just perhaps, this was the answer she had been searching for. And even though it was only the first night, she couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope that these simple foods might actually be the key to stopping Jack's leg cramps for good. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Sarah had always been the kind of person who put others before herself. She was the oldest of 3 children, and from a young age, she felt a sense of responsibility that seemed to weigh heavily on her shoulders. Growing up, her father, Jack, was her protector, her mentor, and her hero. He was a strong, charismatic man with a passion for fishing, a love for gardening, and a gentle sense of humor that could lighten any room. For Sarah, he wasn't just a father, he was a figure of constant support, someone who had always been there through thick and thin. But as the years passed, that same man who had once been a symbol of strength began to fade. Jack's once vibrant health started to wane, and he began to face the inevitable challenges that came with aging. His joints ached, his memory began to slip, and he no longer had the energy to enjoy the simple pleasures of life, like tending to his beloved garden or going for long walks. It was heartbreaking for Sarah to witness, and yet, she felt an overwhelming need to step in and care for him. After all, he had always been there for her. It wasn't an easy transition. At first, Jack resisted the idea of needing help. He was proud, a man who had always taken care of himself and his family. He didn't want to admit that he was slowing down. But over time, the symptoms of aging became undeniable. The leg cramps, in particular, became a recurring nightmare. They came out of nowhere, sharp, sudden, and excruciating. Jack would be asleep, and then, in the dead of night, his legs would seize up, leaving him writhing in pain. Sarah had tried everything to help him, from massaging his legs to applying heat pads, but nothing seemed to work long-term. It was a cycle of constant frustration, both for her and for Jack. When she first started caring for him full-time, Sarah tried to stay positive. She had learned to balance her career and her personal life, and while the responsibility of caregiving was daunting, she always reminded herself that her father had given everything for her when she was growing up. It was her turn now to repay that love and devotion. But caregiving took its toll, physically, emotionally, and mentally. There were days when Sarah felt like she was running on empty, trying to juggle the responsibilities of work, home life, and taking care of Jack. Still, she never complained. She loved him too much to even think of giving up. Her nights were the hardest. Between her own job and the demands of caregiving, Sarah was constantly sleep-deprived. But the nights that Jack's leg cramps struck were the worst. His suffering was unbearable to watch, and Sarah often found herself feeling powerless. What could she do to ease his pain? What could she do to give him the comfort he deserved after so many years of hard work and sacrifice? These questions haunted her as she lay awake in the dark, listening to Jack's labored breathing. One evening, after another sleepless night spent trying to soothe Jack's cramps, Sarah reached a breaking point. She realized she couldn't continue like this, both she and Jack deserved better. He deserved a life without constant pain, and she deserved a chance to rest. That was the moment she knew she had to find a solution. She couldn't keep putting band-aid fixes on Jack's pain, she needed to find something that would truly make a difference. Sarah wasn't the type to back down from a challenge, and so, she dove headfirst into research. She pored over articles, medical journals, and forums, looking for any information that might offer a solution to Jack's leg cramps. As a caregiver, she'd always been resourceful, finding ways to make Jack's life easier and more comfortable. But this time, the search felt different. This wasn't just about making him more comfortable, it was about truly improving his quality of life. In her search, Sarah stumbled upon a simple truth that caught her attention: leg cramps, especially in seniors, are often linked to nutrient deficiencies. Potassium, magnesium, and calcium were crucial for muscle function, and when these nutrients were lacking, the muscles could seize up, causing the cramps that plagued so many seniors like Jack. The solution seemed simple enough: by adjusting Jack's diet to include more foods rich in these nutrients, Sarah could potentially help him find relief. This revelation was a game-changer for Sarah. She realized that she didn't need to rely on expensive medications or quick-fix remedies that only provided temporary relief. She could help Jack by incorporating these essential nutrients into his daily meals. The idea of using food as medicine resonated with her, and she was determined to give it a try. Sarah's first step was to research the best foods that were high in potassium, magnesium, and calcium. The article she found mentioned 3 foods in particular: bananas, spinach, and sweet potatoes. They were all easy to find, easy to prepare, and, most importantly, packed with the nutrients that Jack needed. At first, Sarah was skeptical. Could something as simple as adding more fruits and vegetables to Jack's diet really make a difference? She wasn't sure, but she knew she had to try. She had seen her father suffer for too long, and the thought that something so natural could bring him relief gave her hope. Hope was something Sarah hadn't allowed herself to feel in a while, but this new path felt different. That night, as Sarah prepared dinner, she added these nutrient-packed foods to Jack's meal. Bananas for potassium, spinach for magnesium, and sweet potatoes for both potassium and magnesium. She felt a spark of optimism, knowing that she was taking a proactive step toward improving Jack's health. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face it head-on, just as she had always done with every challenge in her life. Jack, for his part, was cautious. He was never one for drastic changes, but he trusted Sarah, and when she explained her plan to him, he agreed to give it a try. After all, what did he have to lose? The first few days after Sarah introduced the new foods into Jack's diet were met with cautious optimism. She was determined to stay positive, even though she wasn't sure what to expect. Jack, for his part, didn't complain, but he was also hesitant about the sudden changes. He'd never been one to embrace dietary adjustments. He was a meat and potatoes kind of guy, and the idea of eating more fruits and vegetables, especially spinach and sweet potatoes, felt a little strange to him. Still, he trusted Sarah and knew she was only trying to help. Sarah's mornings now began with a new routine: preparing Jack's meals with care and making sure he consumed the potassium, magnesium, and calcium-rich foods that were promised to help with his leg cramps. She took pride in the small victories, like Jack finishing his sweet potato dish without a single complaint or seeing him enjoy a banana for breakfast. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the real test would come when the night fell. Each evening, she waited with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Would Jack's leg cramps strike again in the middle of the night? Would they keep both of them awake, trapped in the cycle of pain and helplessness? The uncertainty gnawed at Sarah. She longed for a solution, a real answer that would bring peace to their nights. As the first week passed, Jack seemed to be doing slightly better. He wasn't waking up in the middle of the night as often, and when he did, the cramps weren't as severe as they had been before. Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. Maybe, just maybe, this would work. But then, one fateful night, everything changed. It was around 2 a.m. when Sarah was jolted awake by the all-too-familiar cry of Jack in pain. She quickly got out of bed, her heart racing. She rushed to his room and found him sitting on the edge of his bed, clutching his calves. His face was contorted in agony, his legs rigid with tension. "Dad, no," Sarah whispered, kneeling beside him. "Not again." Jack's breathing was heavy, his hands trembling as he tried to rub out the cramp. "I don't know what's going on," he muttered through gritted teeth. This never seems to stop." I thought the food was supposed to help. Sarah's heart sank. She had been so hopeful, so confident that the changes she made to his diet would bring relief. But here they were again, back at square one, in the middle of another sleepless night. Her mind raced for a solution. She had read that sometimes it took time for the body to adjust to new changes, but how much time was too much? Was the food helping, or was it simply a placebo? Was it really possible to stop leg cramps through diet alone, or had she been too optimistic? Sarah tried to comfort Jack, rubbing his legs gently as she had done countless times before. "It's going to be okay," she said, though she wasn't sure she believed it herself. She had promised him that things would get better, that she would find a way to relieve his suffering. But as she watched him writhing in pain, she couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. Was it her fault? Had she failed him? After a few minutes, the cramp began to subside, and Jack slowly laid back down, exhausted. "Thanks, Sarah," he said softly. "I don't know what I'd do without you." But Sarah didn't feel reassured. She was frustrated, angry even. Why hadn't the food worked? Was it the wrong combination of foods, or was it something else entirely? She couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing a key piece of the puzzle. Could the food really be the solution she had hoped for, or was it just one more failed attempt to find relief? The next day, Sarah did what she always did when faced with uncertainty. She researched. She dug deeper into the science behind leg cramps, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. She wanted to understand why Jack's cramps were still so persistent, even after incorporating the recommended foods. As she scrolled through articles, medical journals, and health forums, she started to uncover something crucial: leg cramps in seniors weren't always caused by a lack of nutrients alone. In fact, there were several other factors that could contribute to the issue: hydration, medication side effects, even underlying health conditions like diabetes or nerve damage. Suddenly, Sarah realized that the road ahead wasn't going to be as simple as she had hoped. While the foods were part of the solution, they weren't the entire answer. There were other factors at play, and Sarah would need to address them if she wanted to truly help her father. But where did she go from here? What more could she do to ease Jack's suffering? The next evening, as she prepared another meal for Jack, Sarah thought about all the new information she had learned. She realized that while the foods she was giving him might not be the magical cure she had hoped for, they were still an important piece of the puzzle. They provided Jack with essential nutrients that his body needed to function properly. But she couldn't stop there. She needed to be more proactive. She needed to address his hydration, his exercise routine, and even his medications. Every detail mattered. As Sarah set the dinner table, she took a deep breath, steadying herself. She was ready to face the challenge head-on. She wasn't going to give up on her father, no matter how difficult the road became. Jack sat down to eat, his face still showing signs of weariness from the previous night's cramp. Sarah tried to hide her concern, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they had only just begun their journey. The fight against leg cramps was far from over. After the setback, Sarah couldn't afford to waste time. She had already seen glimpses of hope in the way Jack responded to the dietary changes, but it was clear that more was needed. She couldn't ignore the fact that his leg cramps still plagued him, and the worry on his face every morning when he woke up, stiff from a restless night, weighed heavily on her heart. That night, after Jack went to bed, Sarah set to work. She wasn't just going to rely on food alone anymore. She understood now that leg cramps weren't just a result of what Jack was or wasn't eating, they were multifaceted, and Sarah needed a more holistic approach. As she pored over the new research she had uncovered, she learned that hydration was critical. The body could not absorb potassium, magnesium, or calcium without enough water, and dehydration was one of the leading causes of muscle cramps. This was something Sarah had never considered before. Jack, who had spent much of his life in the kitchen preparing heavy, hearty meals, had never been one to drink much water. He preferred coffee or the occasional soda, and in all honesty, he just didn't think about it much. His body was crying out for more fluids, and Sarah knew she had to change that. It was clear now that Jack's leg cramps weren't going to disappear overnight, no matter how much potassium or magnesium she packed into his meals. But this didn't mean she was out of options, far from it. Sarah needed to break the problem down piece by piece, targeting the different contributing factors. She could start with hydration, but she had to keep an eye on the bigger picture. The next morning, Sarah took action. She prepared Jack's breakfast as usual, but this time she slipped a tall glass of water next to his plate, making sure he drank it first thing. "Dad, I read that staying hydrated can really help with muscle cramps," she explained, her voice filled with quiet determination. "Can you try to drink more water today?" Jack looked at the glass skeptically, clearly not thrilled by the idea of drinking something so plain. But Sarah knew she had to stick with it. "I'll try," he muttered. That was enough for Sarah. At least he was willing to give it a shot. That afternoon, Sarah took a trip to the local health food store. She picked up a variety of electrolytes and natural supplements that she had read about. Magnesium and potassium supplements, coconut water, and even a few herbal teas known for their muscle-relaxing properties. While she didn't want to overwhelm Jack with too many new things all at once, she felt that adding a few more tools to her arsenal could make all the difference. If food alone wasn't enough, she was going to give Jack every possible chance to succeed in this fight against his leg cramps. When she returned home, she began preparing dinner, a dinner full of vibrant, colorful foods she knew Jack would love. This time, she added a delicious side of roasted beets, which were packed with potassium, along with a simple cucumber and spinach salad that offered both hydration and magnesium. Jack's eyes lit up when he saw the spread, and for the first time in days, a spark of enthusiasm returned to his face. "Looks good, Sarah," he said, taking his seat at the table. It wasn't just the food he was responding to, it was the care and effort Sarah was putting into every meal, every detail. As they ate, Sarah explained her plan to him. She told him about the importance of hydration, the benefits of electrolytes, and how these changes could work together to support his muscles. Jack listened quietly, nodding along. But Sarah could tell he was still a bit skeptical. It wasn't that he didn't trust her, it was just that he had been down this road before, tried countless remedies over the years, and nothing had ever worked for long. "I know this is a big change, Dad," Sarah said gently, sensing his hesitance. "But I think if we stick with it, you'll start feeling better. This isn't just about food. It's about taking care of your whole body, getting your muscles the nutrients they need and keeping them hydrated." Jack sighed, but his voice softened. "All right, I'll give it a shot. But if it doesn't work, I'm not going to be too happy." Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with hope. "I'll make sure it works, Dad. You've done so much for me, I'm going to do everything I can to help you." That night, Sarah made sure Jack drank his water before bed and took his magnesium supplement. It was a small but important step. As she tucked him in, she felt a sense of accomplishment. She had done all she could to give Jack the best shot at relief, and now, all they could do was wait and see what happened. The next few days were a blur of determination and change. Sarah carefully monitored Jack's water intake, made sure he was eating the right foods, and continued to research new ways to improve his condition. As much as she wanted to find a miracle cure, she knew that real progress would come from a combination of consistent effort, trial and error, and patience. Jack seemed to be getting better, though Sarah knew better than to get ahead of herself. He still had his moments, still woke up with stiff muscles every now and then, but the severity of his cramps was noticeably less intense. He had even started drinking more water during the day, and Sarah could see a difference in his energy levels. He was more alert, less fatigued, and he didn't seem as defeated by the aches that had plagued him for so long. It wasn't a perfect solution. But it was progress, and for Sarah, that was enough for now. They were on the right track, and she was beginning to believe that, just maybe, the foods and lifestyle changes she had introduced could finally give her father the relief he had been desperately seeking. As the days passed, Sarah's resolve grew stronger. This wasn't just about helping her father. It was about empowering both of them to take control of their health. It was about proving that change was possible, even in the most challenging of circumstances. And most importantly, it was about never giving up. It had been 2 weeks since Sarah had implemented the new regimen for Jack: more hydration, magnesium supplements, potassium-rich foods, and a commitment to making small but meaningful changes in his daily life. While Jack's cramps had become less frequent, and when they did occur, they weren't as severe, the nagging feeling that something was still missing lingered in Sarah's mind. She couldn't shake the thought that there was something deeper, some underlying cause, that wasn't being addressed. Could it be the medication? Or was there something else going on with Jack's health? That evening, after another relatively calm night where Jack had only experienced mild discomfort in his legs, Sarah found herself staring out the window, lost in thought. She had been so focused on the foods and the immediate changes that she hadn't taken into account other aspects of her father's health, things she had long overlooked. Jack's health, after all, wasn't just about food. It was a complicated mosaic of genetics, medical history, medications, and lifestyle. Suddenly, a memory from the past resurfaced in Sarah's mind, one she hadn't thought about in years. Several months ago, Jack's doctor had mentioned that some of his medications could potentially contribute to muscle cramps. Sarah remembered him mentioning a specific type of medication, one that Jack had been taking for years to manage his blood pressure. At the time, she hadn't given it much thought. After all, the doctor had assured her that the benefits of the medication far outweighed any minor side effects. But now, as Sarah pieced together all the information, she wondered if that medication could be playing a role in her father's suffering. She felt a knot form in her stomach as she made the connection. Could it be possible that all the food, hydration, and supplements she had introduced were only part of the solution, and the medication could be the real culprit? That night, as Jack settled into his favorite armchair with a cup of tea, Sarah decided to broach the subject. Her heart raced as she sat down across from him. "Dad," she began gently, her voice soft but full of concern. "I've been thinking a lot about your leg cramps and the changes we've made with the food and the water. It's been better, right? But I can't help but wonder if there's something else going on. Something that might be making the cramps worse." Jack looked at her with a weary but curious expression. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice laced with the exhaustion of someone who had spent far too many nights battling pain. "I remember the doctor talking about your blood pressure medication," Sarah said carefully. "Do you think it's possible that the meds could be contributing to the cramps?" Jack's eyes flickered with a mixture of surprise and uncertainty. "I don't know, Sarah. I mean, the doctor said they help my heart. I didn't think they'd cause muscle cramps." "I know," Sarah said. "But I've been doing some research, and apparently, some medications, especially blood pressure meds, can lead to muscle cramps. It could be why we're not seeing the full results from all the changes we've made." There was a long pause, and Jack looked down at the floor, deep in thought. Sarah held her breath, waiting for him to respond. "You know," Jack said slowly, looking up with a faint smile, "I've been on this stuff for years, and I've never really thought about the side effects. Maybe you're right, Sarah. Maybe it's time I asked the doctor about it." For the first time in a long while, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't just about changing his diet anymore. It was about taking a step back, reassessing, and being willing to question the things that had always been considered normal. It was about addressing the bigger picture. "Dad, I think it might be time for a conversation with your doctor," Sarah said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "Maybe they can adjust your medication, or look into alternative treatments. But we need to take everything into account." Jack nodded slowly. "You're right, Sarah. I've trusted that medication for so long, but maybe it's time to consider other options." The conversation wasn't easy. For Jack, admitting that the medications he relied on might be part of the problem was a humbling realization. But for Sarah, it was a turning point. She had always focused on food and supplements, thinking that those alone would solve the problem. But now, she understood that leg cramps were a symptom of a much deeper issue, a complex web of factors that required a more comprehensive approach. The next morning, Sarah made an appointment with Jack's doctor. She couldn't wait to get to the bottom of this. She knew that Jack had been through a lot, but she was determined to help him find relief. In the days that followed, Sarah and Jack took a more proactive approach to his health. They not only made the dietary changes but also discussed alternative options with the doctor, who suggested adjusting the dosage of Jack's medication and exploring natural supplements that could work alongside his prescribed treatment. It wasn't a quick fix. It took time for the medication changes to take effect. But Sarah saw improvements in Jack's condition, even beyond the food and hydration. His energy levels increased, and the cramps began to occur less frequently and with less intensity. It was clear that the changes they had made were finally working together, creating a holistic solution that addressed not just the symptoms but the root cause of the problem. As Jack sat down for breakfast one morning, a new sense of relief washed over both of them. His body felt lighter, his mind clearer, and his spirit renewed. The battle with leg cramps was far from over, but Sarah knew they were on the right path. They had learned to work together, to look at the bigger picture, and to be persistent in the pursuit of better health. It had been a month since Sarah and Jack had made the changes to his diet, hydration, and medications. There had been ups and downs, but something was different now. Jack's mornings were no longer consumed by the dread of stiff, painful muscles. His leg cramps, while not completely gone, had significantly reduced in frequency and intensity. They were now more of a mild discomfort than the debilitating episodes that had once disrupted his life. The combination of a more balanced diet, proper hydration, magnesium supplements, and adjusting his medication had proven to be the breakthrough they needed. Jack was no longer waking up in pain, and his energy levels had noticeably improved. There was even a lightness in his step when he walked, something Sarah hadn't seen in years. One evening, after dinner, Jack sat down in his favorite chair, a contented sigh escaping his lips as he stretched his legs out in front of him. Sarah couldn't help but smile as she watched him. It was a small but significant moment, one that held so much meaning for both of them. Jack was at peace, something she hadn't seen in a long time. "Sarah," Jack began, his voice softer than usual. "I've got to tell you, I haven't felt this good in ages. I can't believe how much these little changes have made a difference." Sarah's heart swelled with pride. She had worked so hard, learning everything she could, experimenting with different foods and methods, all while trying to figure out what would give her father the relief he so desperately needed. Now, seeing the results unfold, she knew it had all been worth it. "I'm so glad, Dad," she said, her voice full of emotion. "I've been thinking a lot about this whole journey. It wasn't just about the food or the water. It was about understanding your body, listening to it, and figuring out how everything works together." Jack nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "You're right. For so long, I just thought it was something I had to live with. But you showed me that it wasn't about just accepting it. There's always a way to make things better." Sarah smiled, her eyes bright with tears. "Exactly. It's about not giving up. Even when things seem tough, there's always a solution. We just have to keep searching for it." The conversation turned to reflection as the two of them talked about everything they had learned. Jack shared stories of his younger days, of times when he'd felt invincible, never once considering the idea that his body would eventually require more care and attention. Sarah, on the other hand, spoke about how much she had learned through this process, not just about food and health, but about the importance of patience, persistence, and being there for someone you love. "I never realized how much we can control," Jack said, his voice full of gratitude. "For so many years, I thought I was just stuck with my health problems. But now, I realize that there's so much we can do. And it all starts with small changes." Sarah nodded. "It's about taking responsibility for your health. You showed me that it's never too late to make a change." Their conversation paused as they sat in companionable silence, the weight of the last few weeks sinking in. Sarah had seen her father at his lowest, but now, seeing him sitting there without the usual aches and pains, she felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. They had both learned something vital, not just about leg cramps, but about life. Change was possible. Healing was possible. And most importantly, love and care were powerful forces that could drive it all forward. As the evening wore on, Sarah began to think about the future. She had already started planning their next steps, how they would continue to incorporate the changes into their daily lives, how they would make these healthy habits a permanent part of their routine. She was committed to ensuring that Jack stayed on track, and she was determined to keep learning, growing, and finding ways to improve their health even further. But more than that, Sarah felt a profound sense of gratitude. Not just for the relief Jack had found, but for the journey itself. It had brought them closer together, forcing them to open up to each other in ways they hadn't in years. It had reminded them both that life didn't just happen to them, they had the power to change their circumstances, no matter how difficult the road might be. "Dad," Sarah said, her voice soft but resolute, "I think this is just the beginning. We've made great progress, but we're not stopping here. There's always room for improvement." Jack smiled warmly, nodding in agreement. "I couldn't have done this without you. I'll keep trying, for sure. And I'm proud of you, Sarah." They shared a quiet moment of understanding, knowing that they had fought this battle together. They had learned that leg cramps were just one small part of a much larger picture. There were always more steps to take, more lessons to learn, and more ways to grow. As they continued to reflect on their journey, Sarah thought about how she could share their story with others. She had learned so much about the power of food, hydration, and the right kind of care, lessons that could help so many people in similar situations. Maybe, just maybe, by sharing what they had gone through, others would feel empowered to take control of their health, too. For now, though, Sarah was content. She had helped her father find relief, but more importantly, she had helped him rediscover hope. And in the process, she had found a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that the care and love she put into every step of their journey had made all the difference. As the days passed, Jack's leg cramps became less and less of an issue. There were still moments when they flared up, but they no longer had the power to control his life. The victory wasn't in the absence of cramps, it was in the freedom they had found through persistence, patience, and a willingness to make small, meaningful changes. And with that, Sarah knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she and her father were ready to face them together. Months later, as Sarah and Jack sat on the porch enjoying a quiet evening, they reflected on the progress they had made. Jack had not only stopped suffering from leg cramps, but he had also gained a new sense of confidence in his health. He felt more empowered, more in control of his body than he had in years. For Sarah, it was a reminder that sometimes the most important things in life weren't grand gestures, but the small, consistent actions we take every day. The key to lasting change wasn't just about finding the right foods or the right supplement, it was about believing in the possibility of change and committing to the journey. Together, they had discovered the power of persistence, the importance of listening to their bodies, and the deep love that could drive them to do anything for each other. And with that, their journey continued, not just for better health, but for a better, stronger bond between them both. Jack woke up earlier than usual the next day. The morning sun streamed through the window, casting a golden glow across the room. It was one of those mornings where everything felt calm, and Jack found himself feeling lighter than he had in years. No stiff legs. No throbbing pain. Just a peaceful start to the day. Sarah was already up, sipping her coffee in the kitchen. As Jack walked in, he gave her a tired but genuine smile. "You know, Sarah," he said as he sat down at the table, "I can't believe how much better I feel. It's like a whole new world without those leg cramps." Sarah looked at her father, her heart swelling with pride. She had been through so much to get him to this point, but the relief she saw on his face made every struggle worth it. There were still challenges ahead, no doubt, but for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace. She knew they had made real progress. But there was one thing she still wanted to address: how to make sure these improvements lasted. "Yeah," Sarah said with a smile, "but we need to make sure this doesn't just stay a temporary fix. We've come this far, and I want to make sure you keep feeling this way. It's about making lasting changes." Jack raised an eyebrow, intrigued by her words. "Lasting changes? What do you mean?" "I think the key to keeping your leg cramps at bay isn't just about the food or the hydration anymore. We've got that part figured out. But now, it's about creating habits that you can sustain over time, habits that will help you maintain the relief and keep improving your health." Jack nodded, taking a sip of his coffee as he processed her words. "That makes sense. It's not enough to just make changes and expect them to stick if we don't build something that works long-term." "Exactly," Sarah said, leaning forward. "This is the final step, a sustainable solution. We have to make sure these habits become second nature. The foods, the hydration, the magnesium supplements, those are all key pieces of the puzzle. But we also need to build a lifestyle around it." Jack looked at her seriously. "I'm listening, Sarah. What's next?" Sarah took a deep breath, feeling a sense of clarity. "First, we keep focusing on the foods that are proven to help with leg cramps, magnesium-rich foods, potassium-rich foods, and hydration. We've got a solid list now. But we also need to make sure you're eating a balanced, nutrient-dense diet every day. We don't want to just stop at the foods that directly prevent cramps, we need to make sure your body gets everything it needs." Jack smiled, impressed by her thoughtfulness. "Okay, that sounds doable." "Good," Sarah continued. "Second, we need to keep up with your hydration. I know we've been stressing water, but it's more than that. We need to keep incorporating electrolyte-rich drinks, especially if you've been more active during the day. And if you start feeling dehydrated, we can even throw in a natural electrolyte powder to boost hydration levels. We'll make sure your muscles have everything they need to stay relaxed." "Got it," Jack replied, already mentally checking off the things they had discussed. "What else?" "Third, consistency is key. The key to all of this is making it part of your routine. We need to create habits, small actions that you don't even have to think about. That means sticking with magnesium supplements daily and making sure you're getting potassium-rich foods regularly. It's not a huge effort, but it makes a difference when you stay consistent." Jack grinned, clearly feeling more at ease now. "Consistency, huh? I can do that. It's just like any other habit, if I make it a priority, it'll stick." "Exactly," Sarah said, smiling. "And don't forget the importance of sleep. Your body needs rest to recover. A solid sleep schedule will give your muscles time to repair themselves and reduce the chances of cramps." Jack's smile softened. "I think I've gotten used to sleeping a little better lately. I never realized how much poor sleep was affecting me." Sarah nodded. "That's part of it. Quality sleep is essential. It'll help with recovery and reduce the chances of those middle-of-the-night cramps." Jack thought for a moment, taking in all the information Sarah had laid out for him. "So, to sum it up, it's about making sure I keep doing the right things every day. The foods, hydration, supplements, sleep, all of that needs to become a habit." "Exactly," Sarah affirmed. "And the last piece is the mental side of things. Keeping a positive mindset about your health and progress is key. We've seen how much you can improve when you believe in the process, so let's continue that momentum. And remember, even if you have a setback or a bad day, it's okay. What matters is that you keep going." Jack chuckled. "You know, I've never been one for all this mind over matter stuff. But I'll admit, having a good attitude about all this has helped. I don't feel so hopeless anymore." "That's the spirit," Sarah said warmly. "It's all about taking control, and trusting that the small steps you're taking will add up to big results over time." As the conversation wound down, Sarah and Jack spent the rest of the morning planning their next steps. They created a routine that would integrate all the practices they'd learned: daily magnesium supplements, potassium-rich snacks like bananas and avocados, and staying hydrated throughout the day. They also mapped out a sleep schedule that would ensure Jack got the rest he needed to recover fully. By the end of the morning, Sarah felt confident that they were on the right track to maintaining Jack's newfound relief from leg cramps. The following weeks were a testament to their hard work. Jack followed the routine Sarah had helped him build, and it wasn't long before he noticed that the leg cramps were fewer and farther between. On the rare occasions they did occur, they weren't nearly as painful or disruptive as they had been in the past. One day, as Jack took a walk through the neighborhood, he reflected on everything that had happened. He felt stronger, healthier, and more in control of his body. The cramps no longer had the same hold over him, and he felt like he had a renewed sense of freedom. That evening, as Sarah prepared their dinner, Jack walked into the kitchen with a wide smile. "I just wanted to say thank you again, Sarah. You've really helped me turn things around. I'm feeling better than I have in years." Sarah smiled back, her heart full. "It was a team effort, Dad. We did this together." And as they sat down for dinner, the two of them felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, not just for the relief from the leg cramps, but for the lessons they had learned, the bond they had strengthened, and the future they would now face with a renewed sense of hope. It had been a few weeks since Sarah and Jack had put their routine into practice, and the changes were undeniable. Jack was no longer waking up in the middle of the night with sharp, excruciating leg cramps. He had more energy throughout the day, and the lingering pain from his past struggles had significantly diminished. But now, as Sarah watched her father walk down the driveway with a spring in his step, she realized that their journey wasn't just about them anymore, it was about sharing what they had learned with others. "Dad," Sarah called out as Jack was about to head out for a walk in the neighborhood. "I think we should start sharing our story." Jack turned back to face her, looking curious. "Share our story? What do you mean?" "I mean, we've learned so much about managing leg cramps, and I think there are a lot of people out there who could benefit from what we've discovered. There are seniors everywhere who struggle with cramps and don't know where to turn. Maybe we could help them," Sarah said, her voice full of conviction. Jack raised his eyebrows thoughtfully. "I don't know, Sarah. I'm just one person. What difference would it make?" Sarah smiled. "You'd be surprised. Just sharing what worked for you could inspire others to take control of their health too. Plus, you've already helped me so much by letting me help you. I think this is a way we can give back." Jack pondered for a moment. He hadn't realized how powerful their story could be. Sure, they had faced challenges and setbacks, but they had come out stronger on the other side. What if their journey could help someone else avoid years of suffering from leg cramps? "I see what you mean," Jack said slowly. "And you're right. If we can help even just one person, it'll be worth it." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Exactly. We could start by telling people what we've been doing, what foods we've been eating, how we've been staying hydrated, and how we've incorporated magnesium into your routine. If we can share what's worked for you, maybe others can find relief too." Jack thought about it for a moment. He had always been a private person, not one to share his personal health struggles with others. But now, he understood that this was bigger than him. It wasn't just about his health, it was about helping others. And that felt good. "You're right, Sarah. Let's do it," Jack agreed. Over the next few days, Sarah and Jack started brainstorming ways to share their story. They decided to create a short video to explain the methods they had used to combat leg cramps. They wanted it to be simple, clear, and relatable. The video would detail everything from the foods that helped with cramps, like bananas, avocados, and leafy greens, to the importance of magnesium and hydration. Sarah also wanted to share tips on how to make these changes a permanent part of daily life, emphasizing the importance of consistency. They filmed the video in their living room, with Jack sitting comfortably in his favorite chair. Sarah explained the process while Jack added his personal experiences, speaking honestly about how much the cramps had affected his life before they started this new routine. It was a raw and genuine account of their journey, one that felt real and authentic. "Hi, I'm Sarah," Sarah began. "And this is my dad, Jack. For years, he suffered from debilitating leg cramps, especially at night. But through some research and a lot of trial and error, we found a solution that's worked wonders. We wanted to share it with you because we know how frustrating and painful leg cramps can be." Jack nodded. "I've been through a lot of sleepless nights, waking up in pain. I thought it was something I just had to live with. But when Sarah started helping me, we discovered that leg cramps aren't just something you have to accept. There are ways to stop them, and it all starts with the right food and hydration." Sarah continued, explaining the top foods that helped Jack the most: bananas for potassium, avocados for magnesium, and leafy greens like spinach to balance electrolytes. She also discussed the importance of magnesium supplements and staying hydrated, particularly during the day. Together, they spoke about how small changes to their diet and routine had made a huge difference. "I've noticed a big change," Jack said with a smile. "I don't wake up at night with leg cramps anymore. I feel more energized, and I can move around without the constant fear of pain. It's been a game changer." Sarah concluded the video by offering advice to anyone struggling with leg cramps. "If you're someone who's dealing with leg cramps, don't give up. It might take some trial and error to find what works for you, but there are solutions out there. You're not stuck with it forever." After filming, Sarah spent the next few days editing the video, making sure it was concise and engaging. They decided to post it on social media and share it with local community groups for seniors. The response was overwhelming. People from all over were reaching out, thanking Sarah and Jack for sharing their story. Many shared their own struggles with leg cramps, and some even asked for advice on how to get started with the changes Sarah and Jack had implemented. Within a week, Jack received messages from a few of his neighbors who were suffering from leg cramps as well. They asked if he could help them get started on the same path. Jack was initially hesitant, unsure of how to guide them. But Sarah encouraged him, saying that his personal experience was the most valuable thing he could offer. "I don't know if I'm qualified to give advice, Sarah," Jack admitted one evening as they discussed the responses. "You've lived it, Dad. That's what matters," Sarah said, her voice firm but kind. "Just tell them what worked for you. People are looking for someone who understands, someone they can relate to." Jack took a deep breath. "All right. I'll give it a shot." Over the next few weeks, Jack began offering advice to his neighbors. He walked them through the steps he had taken, incorporating potassium-rich foods, magnesium supplements, and staying hydrated. He even helped them build their own routines, just as Sarah had done for him. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, with many of his neighbors reporting relief from their leg cramps. It was then that Jack realized something important: it wasn't just about stopping leg cramps, it was about empowering others to take control of their health and make small, sustainable changes in their lives. By sharing what they had learned, Sarah and Jack were able to make a real difference in their community, helping others improve their health and well-being. As Sarah and Jack continued to share their journey, they realized they were not just offering a solution to a physical problem, but also offering hope. The story of how they had turned Jack's health around was a story of persistence, resilience, and the power of making small, thoughtful changes. It was a story of empowerment, and it was one that resonated with everyone who heard it. Together, they had transformed not just Jack's health, but also the lives of those around them. And as they sat together that evening, reflecting on everything they had achieved, they both knew that their journey was far from over. The success of their video had far exceeded Sarah and Jack's expectations. It wasn't just a few neighbors who had reached out, it seemed like the entire community was interested in their story. Jack had received messages from people he hadn't spoken to in years, all asking for advice or tips on preventing leg cramps. Sarah had helped Jack put together a small community group, and together they had begun to spread the word about the benefits of the foods and lifestyle changes that had helped him so much. One afternoon, Sarah was sitting at her computer when she saw a message pop up from an old friend, Claire, who had recently retired and moved to the area. Sarah and Claire had known each other for years, but they had lost touch as life had taken them in different directions. Now, Claire was reaching out, wondering if Sarah's recent posts about leg cramps were the same Sarah she had once known. "Hey, Sarah. I saw your video about leg cramps and how your dad has been doing so much better. Is that you? I can't believe it," the message read. "I've been struggling with leg cramps too, and I'm so glad I saw this. I'd love to chat and hear more about how it worked for you and your dad." Sarah smiled, excited to reconnect with her old friend. She quickly typed a response, arranging a time to talk on the phone later that day. When the call came through, Sarah picked up the phone with a bright, eager voice. "Claire. It's been so long. I'm so glad you saw the video. How have you been?" Sarah asked, genuinely happy to hear from her friend. Claire's voice came through the phone, warm and friendly as always. "It really has been a while. I've been doing well, but I've been dealing with leg cramps for a few months now, especially at night. It's really been bothering me. I saw your post, and I knew I had to reach out. What's this about potassium and magnesium? I could really use some advice." Sarah nodded, even though Claire couldn't see her. "Oh, I'm so glad you reached out. My dad had the same problem. He would wake up in the middle of the night with these terrible cramps. But once we figured out what foods and habits worked for him, everything changed. It started with potassium and magnesium-rich foods, bananas, avocados, spinach. Plus, we really focused on keeping him hydrated throughout the day. We even added magnesium supplements into his routine." "That's so interesting. I've never really thought about what foods could make such a difference. I've just been putting up with the cramps, hoping they'd go away on their own." "Maybe that's the problem," Claire mused. Sarah continued, excited to offer practical advice. "Honestly, Claire, it's about finding a balance. You need enough potassium, magnesium, and hydration to keep your muscles from cramping. Plus, sleep is super important. If you're not getting enough rest, your muscles don't have time to repair, and that can make cramps worse." "Sleep. That's something I've been struggling with, too," Claire exclaimed. "I've been tossing and turning all night. I know that doesn't help." Sarah smiled, knowing exactly where her friend was coming from. "That's a big factor too. If you don't get good sleep, your body just can't recover. That's why we made sure Dad's routine included a solid sleep schedule. I really think that's been a big part of why his cramps have stopped." "Okay, I'm definitely going to try this," Claire said. "I'm already making a list of the foods you mentioned, bananas, avocados, spinach, and I'll start tracking my water intake better. I think the hydration part is where I've been slipping." Sarah could hear the determination in Claire's voice, and it made her smile. "I'm sure you'll see a big difference. And if you need any support, I'm here. You're not alone in this." Claire laughed, sounding more upbeat than before. "Thanks, Sarah. You and your dad have already given me so much hope. I can't wait to start this new routine. I'll keep you posted on how things go." After the call ended, Sarah sat back, feeling fulfilled. Helping her dad had led to something bigger than she had ever imagined. She hadn't just helped Jack, she had created a ripple effect that was now spreading through the community, inspiring others to take control of their health. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and Jack continued to assist their neighbors and friends with their leg cramps. As more people reached out to them, they realized that they had tapped into something powerful, a community of people who were eager to improve their health and support one another. Sarah thought about how far they had come. What had started as a personal struggle had now blossomed into a movement that was helping people of all ages, especially seniors, find relief from leg cramps and other discomforts. The conversations they were having with their neighbors were full of hope, as people shared their progress and encouraged one another. There was a new sense of camaraderie in the air. One evening, Jack and Sarah sat together, reflecting on the journey they had been on. "You know, Sarah," Jack said thoughtfully, "I never expected all this. I thought it was just about me getting rid of those leg cramps. But now I see how much this has helped others too. I'm proud of what we've done." Sarah smiled at her father, her heart full. "I am too, Dad. I never realized that helping you would lead to helping so many others. It's amazing how one small change can have such a big impact." They both paused, taking in the weight of what they had accomplished. In just a few months, they had turned a personal struggle into a community-wide effort to improve health. It wasn't just about leg cramps anymore, it was about empowerment, knowledge, and support. The next day, Sarah organized a small health seminar at the community center. She invited everyone they had helped so far to come and learn more about nutrition, hydration, and sleep, how those three factors could drastically improve leg cramps and overall well-being. They would also have a Q&A session, where people could ask questions and share their experiences. When the day of the seminar arrived, the community center was buzzing with energy. Sarah and Jack were both excited and a little nervous. This was their chance to reach even more people and spread the word about how to manage leg cramps effectively. As the room filled with familiar faces, Sarah stepped up to the front of the room. "Welcome, everyone. We're so happy to have you here today. We know that many of you have struggled with leg cramps, and we're here to share what has worked for us and so many others. Today, it's all about learning how to take control of your health, one step at a time." Jack smiled proudly from the side of the room, watching his daughter lead the seminar. He never would have imagined that they'd be here, helping people change their lives. But as Sarah spoke, he realized that they had done something much bigger than just fixing his leg cramps. They had started a movement. The seminar at the community center was a huge success. Sarah and Jack had helped dozens of people find solutions to their leg cramps, but what they hadn't expected was the ripple effect that followed. After the event, attendees started talking about what they had learned, and word quickly spread across the town. Soon enough, people from nearby neighborhoods reached out, eager to try the methods Sarah and Jack had shared. The momentum was building, and Sarah couldn't ignore the opportunity in front of her. She had a vision: why not expand this effort beyond their small community? Why not take their message to other cities, states, and even nationwide? Late one night, after putting Jack to bed, Sarah sat at her desk, staring at her computer screen. She had been toying with the idea for a while, but now, the more she thought about it, the more it seemed like the right move. She began typing a plan for how they could take their success online, offering tips, support, and real solutions to leg cramps for seniors everywhere. The next morning, she couldn't wait to tell Jack. "Dad, I've been thinking," she began as he sipped his coffee at the kitchen table. "We've helped so many people already, and I think it's time to reach even more. I want to take our message online." Jack raised his eyebrows, intrigued. "Online? You mean like a blog or something?" "Exactly," Sarah replied. "But not just a blog. I'm thinking of creating a website, an online community. We could have a space where people from all over the country can learn about the foods and habits that help prevent leg cramps, share their stories, and support one another. We could even do online seminars and webinars. I want this to be bigger than just us, it could help so many more people." Jack leaned back in his chair, thinking about it. "You know, Sarah, I never thought it would get to this point, but I'm starting to see the bigger picture. You're right. There are people everywhere who are suffering, and if we can help them, why not?" Sarah smiled, feeling a surge of excitement. She had been waiting for this moment, for Jack to be as invested in the idea as she was. Exactly. It's about creating a place where people can find real solutions, real support, and feel like they're not alone. And we can offer it all for free. We've got the knowledge, the experience, and the passion. We can make a difference on a larger scale. Over the next few weeks, Sarah got to work. She started designing the website, building a platform where seniors could access information on leg cramps, healthy eating, hydration, magnesium, and sleep. She created articles, videos, and downloadable resources that explained how food could stop leg cramps fast, just like they had learned with Jack. She even included testimonials from their neighbors, who shared their own success stories. The online community began to take shape. Sarah set up social media accounts, including a Facebook page and Instagram account, to further engage with people and answer their questions. She also started a weekly newsletter to keep people updated on new resources, tips, and advice. Jack, while not as tech-savvy as Sarah, was fully on board. He helped her gather information, proofread content, and even recorded videos where he shared his personal experience with leg cramps. His honest, relatable approach was exactly what people needed to hear. The combination of Sarah's enthusiasm and Jack's real-world experience made for a perfect team. Soon enough, the website launched, and it wasn't long before people started visiting. Messages poured in from seniors across the country, each one grateful for the support and guidance. Sarah and Jack had created something meaningful, an online community where people could connect, learn, and improve their lives. As the weeks passed, they began offering free virtual webinars. These were hosted live, and Sarah would guide participants through their leg cramp prevention plan, explaining the importance of the right foods, hydration, and sleep, just like she had done in the community seminar. Jack also joined in, offering his tips for sticking to the routine and answering questions from the viewers. One of their first webinars had more than 100 participants, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Seniors were sharing how they had tried the foods and tips Sarah and Jack suggested, and many reported feeling less pain and fewer cramps. The sense of relief in the messages they received was palpable, and it only fueled their drive to continue helping. One evening, as Sarah was reading through some of the success stories that had come in, she stumbled upon a message that caught her attention. It was from a woman named Martha, who had been dealing with leg cramps for over 20 years. Martha shared how, after following the advice on the website, she was now able to sleep through the night without waking up in pain. Martha wrote, "I never thought I'd see the day when I could wake up in the morning without that awful ache in my legs. You've given me hope, and I just wanted to thank you for all that you do. I'll be forever grateful." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she read the message. This was the reason they had started this journey, to make a difference. Helping people like Martha wasn't just about teaching them how to manage leg cramps, it was about giving them back something they thought they had lost, the ability to live without pain, the ability to sleep soundly, the ability to enjoy life again. Sarah quickly forwarded the message to Jack, who was sitting in the living room watching television. "Dad, you've got to read this," she said, holding up her phone. Jack read Martha's message and smiled, his eyes glistening with emotion. "Wow. This is why we're doing it, huh?" Sarah nodded. "Exactly. This is what makes it all worth it." With their online platform growing and more people finding relief from leg cramps, Sarah and Jack knew they had only scratched the surface. They had set out to help their community, but now they were reaching far beyond that. Their message had traveled across the country, bringing hope and healing to countless seniors who were struggling with leg cramps. As they sat together that evening, reflecting on everything they had accomplished, Sarah realized that their mission was far from over. They had built something special, something that was touching lives and changing people's daily experiences. But there was more to be done. More seniors to help. More families to support. Jack looked at Sarah and said with a sense of quiet pride, "We're just getting started. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" As Sarah and Jack continued their journey to help seniors find relief from leg cramps, their online platform gained even more traction. Word was spreading not just across the country, but even internationally. People from various parts of the world were reaching out to share their experiences, grateful for the tips and resources Sarah and Jack had provided. Their success had surpassed their wildest dreams. But with success came new challenges. The influx of messages, emails, and comments was overwhelming at times, and Sarah found herself spending countless hours responding to questions, offering guidance, and maintaining the website. The goal had always been to create a sense of community, but as their audience grew, Sarah knew they needed help. One day, as Sarah sat in front of her laptop, she received an email that caught her attention. It was from a senior wellness magazine, Golden Years Living. They had been following Sarah and Jack's work for some time and were impressed by the impact they had made in such a short period. The email was an invitation to be featured in their upcoming issue, a publication that reached millions of readers. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. This was a huge opportunity. A chance to reach even more people, share their message with a larger audience, and potentially help thousands of seniors who were still struggling with leg cramps. She immediately forwarded the email to Jack. Jack read the message, then looked up at Sarah with a smile. "I can't believe it. This could be our big break." "I know," Sarah replied, her voice filled with excitement. "This is exactly what we've been working for. If we can get featured in Golden Years Living, more people will know about us. And that means more lives we can help." Jack nodded thoughtfully. "But it's a big responsibility too. We'll need to make sure everything's perfect for the interview. And we'll need to be prepared to answer some tough questions." Sarah agreed. The pressure was real, but she also knew it was an opportunity they couldn't pass up. They had already helped so many people, and this would be their chance to scale up even more, reaching seniors across the country who didn't yet know the power of the foods and habits that could stop leg cramps. Over the next week, Sarah and Jack worked together to prepare for the interview. They gathered their research, refined their message, and practiced answering potential questions. Jack was nervous but also excited. This was their chance to help even more people, and he was proud to be a part of something so meaningful. The day of the interview arrived, and Sarah was on edge. She had set up a quiet corner in their living room for the Zoom call with the Golden Years Living journalist, Carla Peterson. Jack was sitting nearby, offering moral support. Sarah had made sure she looked professional, but it was the message that mattered most to her. The screen flickered to life, and Carla appeared, a warm smile on her face. "Hi, Sarah. It's so great to finally meet you. I've been following your journey, and I'm truly impressed by what you and your dad have done. Are you ready for the interview?" Sarah smiled back, trying to keep her nerves in check. "Yes, absolutely. I'm excited to share our story." Carla nodded. "Great. Let's dive right in. I'd love to know how you got started. What made you decide to help people with leg cramps?" Sarah took a deep breath, recalling the many sleepless nights spent caring for her dad. "It all started with my dad, Jack. He had been struggling with severe leg cramps for years. Nothing seemed to work. He'd wake up in pain, sometimes crying out in the middle of the night. It was heartbreaking. I knew I had to help him. So, we started researching, trying to figure out what foods and lifestyle changes could make a difference. Over time, we found a combination that worked, and the cramps stopped. That's when we realized that if this could help him, it could help others too." Carla's eyes brightened with interest. "That's incredible. And now, you've created this platform, this community that's helping thousands of people. What do you think is the most important takeaway from your experience?" Sarah thought for a moment. "I think the most important thing we've learned is that small changes can have a huge impact. It's not just about taking a pill or trying a quick fix. It's about making adjustments to your diet, hydration, and sleep patterns, 3 key factors that can prevent leg cramps. For seniors, it's especially important to prioritize these areas. And what we've found is that when people make these changes, they feel better. They sleep better. They live better." Carla nodded, impressed. "That's a powerful message. And it's so relatable for so many people. But it's not just about the food, right? You're also emphasizing the importance of community, support, and connection. That's right, Sarah said. The community we've built has been crucial. People can share their stories, offer advice, and support each other. And that's been really powerful. It's not just about the food, it's about knowing you're not alone in your journey. When people feel supported, they're more likely to stick with the changes that will improve their lives. Carla smiled warmly. I can see that. Your passion for helping others really shines through. I know our readers will be inspired by your story. Before we wrap up, is there any advice you'd like to share with seniors who are still struggling with leg cramps? Sarah didn't hesitate. I'd tell them to start with the basics, get enough potassium and magnesium, stay hydrated, and prioritize your sleep. And don't be afraid to reach out for support. It's okay to ask for help. There's no need to suffer in silence. If you start making these changes today, you could feel better tomorrow. Carla leaned in. Thank you so much, Sarah. This has been such an inspiring conversation, and I know our readers are going to love hearing about your journey. I'll let you know when the article is ready. A week later, Sarah and Jack received a copy of Golden Years Living, with their story featured prominently on the cover. Sarah could hardly believe it as she flipped through the pages, seeing her words printed out for the world to read. It was surreal, but it was also proof that their message was resonating. The article went viral, and soon, Sarah and Jack were receiving requests for interviews, speaking engagements, and partnerships from health organizations and senior living communities. They had become experts in the field, and their influence continued to grow. One afternoon, Jack sat down with Sarah, looking out at the world outside their window. I never imagined we'd come this far, Sarah, he said softly. But now, it feels like we're really making a difference. People are listening. Sarah smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. We are, Dad. We really are. With the success of their feature in Golden Years Living magazine, Sarah and Jack's platform was reaching more people than ever before. But they both knew that to truly make the impact they wanted, they needed more than just a strong online presence, they needed partnerships. The kind of partnerships that could elevate their message to new heights and ensure their advice reached seniors across the country. One morning, Sarah received an email that could change everything. It was from a well-known health organization that specialized in senior wellness, Silver Care, a network of healthcare providers and senior living communities. They had been following Sarah and Jack's journey, and they were impressed by their efforts to help seniors with leg cramps. The email offered a potential collaboration. The proposal was clear: Silver Care wanted to partner with Sarah and Jack to bring their message of leg cramp prevention to senior living communities across the nation. In exchange, they provide funding to help expand the platform and create more resources for seniors. It was an opportunity too big to pass up. Sarah couldn't contain her excitement. She immediately forwarded the email to Jack, who was sipping his morning coffee at the kitchen table. Dad, you have to see this, she said, her voice filled with enthusiasm. It's a partnership offer from Silver Care. They want to collaborate with us to reach more seniors. This is huge. Jack's eyes widened as he read through the email. Wow, Sarah. This could take us to a whole new level. Imagine being able to bring our message to so many more people through senior communities across the country. Sarah nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. Exactly. We could create a series of workshops and seminars, and they could help distribute our materials to the residents. This could be the push we need to truly make a difference. After discussing the details, Sarah and Jack agreed to meet with Silver Care to discuss the partnership further. A few days later, they found themselves sitting across from two representatives from the organization, Rachel and Mark, in a conference room. Rachel, a woman in her early 40s with a professional but approachable demeanor, smiled as she greeted them. We're thrilled to be here today. Your work has made such an impact already, and we believe that by partnering with Silver Care, we can help take this to the next level. Mark, a tall man in his 50s with a warm presence, nodded in agreement. Our goal is to bring resources like yours to senior communities nationwide. We're particularly excited about the educational aspect of your platform. Teaching seniors how food, hydration, and lifestyle choices can have a real impact on their health. This aligns perfectly with our mission to improve the quality of life for seniors. Sarah and Jack exchanged a glance, both feeling the weight of the opportunity in front of them. Sarah spoke up first. We've always believed in the power of small changes, things like magnesium-rich foods and proper hydration. These are simple but life-changing adjustments. And it's been so rewarding to see the impact it's had on people's lives. Rachel leaned forward. That's exactly why we want to work with you. We've seen firsthand how important it is for seniors to stay informed about nutrition and health practices. We can help distribute your materials, host workshops, and integrate your message into our existing wellness programs. The reach of Silver Care is extensive, with senior communities in every state. Together, we can reach so many more people who need this kind of help. Jack, who had been listening intently, added, "It's all about building trust. We want seniors to feel comfortable making these changes, knowing they're supported by a network that truly cares. And with Silvercare's established presence, we can create that trust on a much larger scale." Rachel smiled. Exactly. We can also explore options like sponsored webinars, monthly newsletters, and even branded events. There's so much potential for collaboration. Mark glanced at his notes. We've been thinking about long-term partnerships as well. As part of this collaboration, we'd love to help you scale up your online platform, reach new audiences, and even create a mobile app. That would make your resources even more accessible to seniors on the go. The idea of a mobile app was a game-changer for Sarah. She had always envisioned a way for seniors to easily access information no matter where they were, whether they were at home or on a trip. A mobile app would allow them to have the tools they needed at their fingertips, with reminders to stay hydrated, eat the right foods, and get enough sleep. This sounds amazing, Sarah said, her excitement palpable. A mobile app could help seniors track their hydration, set reminders for meals, and access resources on the go. It's exactly what we need to make this process even easier for them. Mark and Rachel nodded in agreement, and the meeting continued with discussions on timelines, content creation, and next steps. By the end of the meeting, Sarah and Jack had signed an agreement to officially partner with Silver Care. The collaboration was set to launch within the next few months, and they were both thrilled to get started. A few weeks later, Sarah found herself sitting in front of her computer, writing an email to their ever-growing list of followers. She couldn't believe how far they had come in such a short period of time. The online platform was thriving, and now, with the Silver Care partnership, they were poised to reach even more people. The email read, "Dear friends, we have some exciting news to share. We are thrilled to announce a new partnership with Silver Care, a nationwide organization dedicated to improving the quality of life for seniors. Together, we'll be bringing our message of leg cramp prevention to senior living communities across the country. This collaboration will allow us to expand our reach, provide more resources, and help even more people find relief from leg cramps. We're so excited about this next chapter in our journey, and we want to thank you for your ongoing support. Stay tuned for more updates, and as always, feel free to reach out with any questions or feedback. Together, we're making a difference. Best regards. Sarah and Jack." As the email went out, Sarah reflected on the incredible journey they had been on. From the quiet nights of research to the community seminars, and now to a nationwide partnership that could bring lasting change to seniors everywhere, what had started as a small, personal mission was now a powerful force for good. Sarah looked over at Jack, who was reading through the latest emails, and smiled. "We're just getting started, Dad." Jack nodded, his eyes filled with pride. "We sure are, Sarah. We sure are." As Sarah and Jack's partnership with Silver Care grew, they found themselves navigating new and exciting opportunities. With their combined expertise and resources, they were now able to offer seniors a comprehensive program aimed at not only alleviating leg cramps but preventing them altogether. Their message was clear: prevention is the key to long-term health and well-being. In their first month working with Silver Care, Sarah and Jack developed a series of educational workshops for senior living communities. These workshops focused on the three key areas that they believed could significantly reduce leg cramps: proper nutrition, hydration, and sleep. To start, they worked with nutritionists to create a meal plan that was simple, affordable, and filled with the best foods to combat leg cramps. They emphasized foods rich in potassium, magnesium, and calcium: bananas, sweet potatoes, spinach, and almonds. They also encouraged seniors to drink plenty of water, emphasizing how dehydration could exacerbate muscle cramps. They created a series of colorful pamphlets and easy-to-follow guides that explained these foods and their benefits in simple terms. These materials were distributed at senior living communities across the country. In addition to the printed resources, Sarah and Jack also offered an online version of the program, where seniors could access videos, meal prep tips, and even live Q&A sessions with dietitians. However, it wasn't just about what seniors ate, it was about how they lived. They incorporated movement and stretching exercises into their workshops. Stretching, Sarah explained, helped improve blood flow to the muscles and prevented cramps from occurring in the first place. One of their most popular sessions was focused on leg stretches and gentle exercises, which they filmed and shared on their website. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Seniors who had previously been unable to stand for long periods due to leg cramps were now reporting improved mobility and strength. As Sarah and Jack traveled to different Silver Care communities to lead the workshops, they were inspired by the transformations they witnessed. One woman, Mrs. Johnson, stood out to them in particular. She had struggled with debilitating leg cramps for years, waking up in pain almost every night. After attending one of the workshops, Mrs. Johnson began incorporating the recommended foods into her diet and diligently following the stretches and hydration tips. A month later, when Sarah and Jack returned for a follow-up visit, Mrs. Johnson greeted them with a beaming smile. "I can't believe it," she said, her voice full of emotion. "I haven't had a single cramp in weeks. I wake up feeling refreshed, not in pain. My mornings are so much better now, and I feel like I have my life back." Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "That's amazing, Mrs. Johnson. I'm so happy to hear that." Jack, always the quieter one, leaned in and added, "It's stories like yours that keep us going. You're the reason we do this." It wasn't just Mrs. Johnson who was benefiting. Many other seniors had shared similar stories of relief and newfound freedom. Some even reported feeling more energetic and active, as they were now able to enjoy daily activities without the fear of sudden cramps interrupting their plans. The workshops had become a major success, and Sarah and Jack felt as though they were finally seeing the fruits of their labor. But there was still so much more to do. They wanted to reach even more seniors, especially those in remote areas where access to healthcare and wellness programs could be limited. They began to brainstorm new ideas for expanding their reach. One evening, while brainstorming over dinner, Sarah brought up the idea of creating a mobile app. She had been thinking about it for a while, and it felt like the natural next step. The app would give seniors access to their resources at the touch of a button. It would include everything they had worked on so far: meal plans, hydration tips, stretching routines, and educational videos, plus new features like personalized reminders and progress tracking. Jack, who had become more involved in the technical side of the business, was immediately on board. "We've talked about this for a while now. A mobile app could really help us scale up our work. Seniors can have everything they need right on their phones, which makes it even easier for them to stay on track." They reached out to a developer who specialized in senior-friendly apps, and soon, the development process was underway. The goal was to make the app as user-friendly as possible: large text, clear buttons, and reminders to make it accessible for those who might not be tech-savvy. They wanted the app to be a tool that seniors could trust to help them manage their leg cramps in real time. As the app took shape, Sarah and Jack continued to lead workshops and offer their support to seniors across the country. They spent hours answering emails and comments from their community, offering advice and encouragement. It was clear to them that the work they were doing was not just changing lives, it was creating a movement. Their next big milestone came when Silvercare invited them to speak at their annual national conference on senior wellness. It was a prestigious event, attended by healthcare professionals, senior care providers, and policy makers from across the country. Sarah and Jack were excited but nervous. This would be their chance to share their message with an even broader audience. The day of the conference, they arrived early to set up their booth and meet with other speakers. As they walked through the convention center, they couldn't help but be amazed at the energy in the air. There were dozens of booths showcasing new products and services for seniors, but Sarah and Jack knew that their message of prevention and empowerment was different. When it was their turn to speak, Sarah stood at the podium, feeling a rush of nervous energy. She glanced over at Jack, who offered her a reassuring smile. He had always been there, every step of the way. She began her speech with a story, the same story she had shared so many times about her dad and the leg cramps he had suffered. As she spoke, she could feel the room connecting with her. She wasn't just talking about a problem, she was talking about a solution, one that anyone could implement in their lives. "We're here today," Sarah said, "because we believe that leg cramps don't have to be a normal part of aging. They don't have to define your quality of life. By making simple, sustainable changes to your diet, hydration, and exercise routine, you can stop leg cramps before they even begin. It's about taking control of your health, because you deserve to live a pain-free, active life." The crowd erupted into applause. It was clear that Sarah and Jack had struck a chord. After the speech, they were swarmed with questions, inquiries about their workshops, their mobile app, and how they could collaborate with healthcare providers to further spread their message. As Sarah and Jack left the conference that day, they felt a sense of fulfillment and purpose. Their work had touched so many lives, and now, they were on the verge of helping even more. They had proven that with the right information, tools, and support, seniors could take control of their health and live life without the constant fear of leg cramps. Sarah turned to Jack with a smile. "We're not just making a difference, Dad. We're changing the way people think about aging." Jack nodded, his eyes filled with pride. "And we're just getting started." Success seemed inevitable now. With Silvercare's vast network, the mobile app in development, and their workshops making waves across the country, it felt as though everything was falling into place for Sarah and Jack. But life, as they both knew, had a way of throwing curveballs when you least expected them. It all started with a phone call that came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Sarah answered the call, her heart racing as she recognized the number from their app development team. "Sarah, we've hit a major roadblock with the app," the developer, Emma, said on the other end. "We've run into some unexpected technical issues with the user interface. It's making the app slower, especially for users with older devices. It's just not as user-friendly as we need it to be." Sarah's stomach sank. She had been so excited about the app, and the team had worked so hard to get to this point. "What do you mean slower? I thought we were on track to launch soon." Emma sighed. "We were, but after testing it with some real users, we noticed that the app isn't as responsive for seniors using older phones. Some of the features aren't working properly, and we're worried it'll turn off our target audience. It's a big setback, and we need time to fix it." Sarah felt a wave of frustration, but she forced herself to stay calm. "I understand. What's the plan to fix this? How much time do we need?" "We'll need at least 2 more months to get everything fixed and retested. We'll focus on simplifying the interface and optimizing it for older devices. But I won't lie, it's going to take some work," Emma explained. Sarah put the phone down and sat silently for a moment. The dream of launching the app within the next few weeks, which felt so close, now seemed further away than ever. Jack entered the room just as Sarah was processing the news. "Hey, what's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost. Sarah explained the situation, detailing the setbacks with the app and the delays. Jack's face softened with understanding. Well, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world either. We've been facing challenges from the beginning, and we've always figured out a way to overcome them. But I feel like we've worked so hard for this moment, Sarah said, frustration creeping into her voice. We can't afford to have the app flop. It's supposed to be a game changer for seniors. I don't want to disappoint all the people who are relying on us. Jack walked over to her and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We're not going to let this setback stop us, Sarah. We've already helped thousands of people, and we're going to help thousands more. This app is just one part of the bigger picture. We have the workshops, the materials, and the partnerships we've built. There's more than one way to make a difference. Sarah took a deep breath and nodded. She knew he was right. The journey had never been about one single project or breakthrough, it had always been about the mission. They were making an impact, and that impact wouldn't stop just because the app hit a snag. That evening, as they sat down to dinner, they discussed their next steps. Jack suggested that they focus on amplifying their current work while the app was being fixed. Let's put more energy into our workshops and continue pushing our online resources. The app will get there, but in the meantime, we can't lose momentum. Sarah agreed. You're right. We need to keep helping people in real time. We've built such a strong community online and at the senior living communities, we can continue offering live webinars, more personalized support, and even a series of success stories to motivate everyone. They decided to focus on promoting their upcoming live webinar series, which would address common senior health concerns like leg cramps, nutrition, hydration, and mobility. Sarah and Jack would host the sessions themselves, answering questions from their growing online community and providing actionable advice. The webinars quickly became a hit. The first one, titled Breaking the Cycle of Leg Cramps, Simple Steps for Seniors, attracted hundreds of viewers from across the country. Sarah and Jack were blown away by the response. During the webinar, Sarah addressed the role of potassium, magnesium, and calcium in preventing cramps, while Jack demonstrated simple stretching techniques that seniors could follow along with in real time. The audience was engaged, asking questions about specific foods, hydration tips, and how they could incorporate these changes into their routines. One viewer, a woman named Carol, left a comment during the webinar that caught Sarah's attention. I've had leg cramps for years, and no doctor ever told me about the connection to hydration. I'm going to try these tips, thank you. See? Jack said after the webinar ended. This is exactly why we do it. You just helped Carol change her life. Sarah smiled, grateful for the reminder of why they had started this journey. You're right. Sometimes the setbacks make us forget about the bigger picture. This is what it's all about. After that first successful webinar, Sarah and Jack continued to host a series of sessions focused on different aspects of senior wellness. They covered topics like sleep hygiene, managing stress, and boosting mobility. They also brought in guest speakers, such as nutritionists and physical therapists, to share their expertise. The online community continued to grow, and Sarah and Jack were building a loyal, engaged following. Meanwhile, the app development team worked diligently on addressing the technical issues. Over the following weeks, Emma and her team made significant progress. The interface was simplified, and they ensured that the app would run smoothly on older devices. Emma sent Sarah and Jack regular updates, and while the app still wasn't ready to launch, the team's hard work gave them renewed hope. 1 month later, Sarah received an email from Emma, "We're ready for the second round of testing. The app is performing much better, and we've worked out most of the bugs. Once we get final approval, we'll be ready for launch." It felt like a huge weight had been lifted. Sarah immediately called Jack to share the good news. "We're almost there," Sarah said, her voice filled with excitement. "The app is ready for testing again. It's going to work this time." Jack laughed, his relief evident. "That's fantastic. All our hard work is paying off. We're getting closer to making a real difference for seniors everywhere." Sarah paused for a moment, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. "This setback was tough, but it's taught me something important. It's not about the perfect timing or the perfect tool, it's about the people we're helping along the way. That's what really matters." Jack nodded, his eyes full of pride. "Exactly. We're doing this together, and together, we'll make sure it's a success." The days leading up to the launch of their app were a whirlwind for Sarah and Jack. After months of hard work, setbacks, and constant iteration, the moment they had been waiting for had finally arrived. The app was ready. It was time to put their years of knowledge, passion, and dedication into the hands of seniors across the country. The launch was scheduled for a Thursday morning, and Sarah couldn't contain her excitement. The app, which they had named Leg Cramps No More, was designed with one goal in mind: to empower seniors to take control of their health and eliminate the pain of leg cramps for good. It was packed with everything they had learned from their workshops and webinars: easy-to-follow stretching routines, meal plans, hydration tips, and even a built-in reminder system to keep seniors on track. But launching an app wasn't just about releasing a product, it was about creating a movement. Sarah and Jack had been working with their marketing team to prepare for the big day. They had created a countdown on their website, organized a series of social media posts, and planned a special online event to unveil the app to the world. The morning of the launch, Sarah woke up early, her nerves a mix of excitement and anxiety. She checked her phone to make sure everything was in place: emails, social media posts, and the webinar scheduled for later that day. She had spent weeks preparing for this moment, and now, it was finally happening. At the same time, Jack was at their office, preparing for the webinar. He was going to walk through the app's features with a live demonstration, showing seniors just how easy it was to use. They had also invited a few of their most loyal followers to join the session and share their success stories, hoping that their testimonials would inspire even more people to download the app. As the clock ticked down to the launch, Sarah and Jack shared a quiet moment together. They had come so far since the days when they were simply trying to find ways to help Sarah's dad. Now, they had created something that could help thousands, maybe even millions, of seniors. It was hard to believe how much their lives had changed in just a few years. "We did it, didn't we?" Sarah said, her voice filled with emotion. Jack smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We sure did. And we're just getting started." At 10 a.m. sharp, the countdown on their website reached 0. The app was officially live. Immediately, their phones buzzed with notifications. The App Store listings went up, and within minutes, the first downloads started to pour in. Sarah watched the numbers climb, her heart racing. This was real. Their app was now available to the world. "Look at this," Sarah said, showing Jack the screen. "It's actually happening." Jack smiled, his eyes full of pride. This is just the beginning. The first hour was a blur. The marketing team was tracking downloads, and the social media posts had already started generating buzz. People were sharing the news, commenting on how excited they were to try out the app, and asking questions about its features. Sarah and Jack both took to their social media channels to personally respond to the messages of support, thanking everyone for their trust and enthusiasm. Then, it was time for the webinar. Jack, with his usual calm demeanor, began the live session, walking through the app's features step by step. He explained how seniors could access personalized meal plans, set hydration reminders, and use the app's stretch tracker to ensure they were staying on top of their leg health. He also highlighted the app's built-in community feature, where users could connect with others to share tips and experiences. The webinar was a hit, attracting over 500 participants. But the real magic came when a few of their longtime followers shared their success stories. One by one, they told how Sarah and Jack's advice had changed their lives. Some spoke about the pain they had suffered from leg cramps for years, and how Leg Cramps No More had provided them with the tools they needed to finally find relief. Others spoke about how the community within the app had motivated them to stay on track and improve their overall health. One of the most moving testimonials came from a woman named Linda, who had been living with severe leg cramps for over a decade. "I used to wake up in the middle of the night, screaming in pain," she said, her voice shaky. "I couldn't go anywhere without worrying about cramps. But after following Sarah and Jack's tips, and using the app every day, I haven't had a single cramp in months. I can finally sleep through the night again. I feel like I have my life back." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she watched Linda's emotional testimonial. She turned to Jack, who was equally moved. They had done it. They had helped people like Linda, and now, they were reaching so many more. The webinar ended with a wave of positivity and excitement. Thousands of seniors had joined, downloaded the app, and were already experiencing its benefits. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, with many users expressing how easy the app was to navigate and how much they had learned from the resources available. By the end of the day, Leg Cramps No More had been downloaded over 10,000 times. It was more than Sarah and Jack could have hoped for. Their dream of helping seniors live a life free of leg cramps was no longer just an idea, it was a reality. As the day wound down, Sarah and Jack sat together, reflecting on their journey. They had worked so hard to get to this point, and now, it was all paying off. But the work wasn't over. They still had big plans for the app, future updates, additional features, and new partnerships to explore. They had a long road ahead, but for the first time, it felt like the road was wide open. "Look at us," Sarah said, leaning back in her chair, a satisfied smile spreading across her face. "We're making a real difference." Jack chuckled. "We've been making a difference from the beginning. But now, we have the tools to help even more people. And that feels pretty incredible." They sat in silence for a few moments, letting the weight of the day's success settle in. Their work had just begun, but they were ready for whatever came next. The excitement from the app launch had barely worn off when Sarah and Jack found themselves facing a new opportunity. The success of Leg Cramps No More had attracted the attention of some major players in the health and wellness industry, and now, they were being asked to partner with well-known senior health brands. It all began one sunny afternoon when Sarah received an email from a well-established senior care company, Golden Years Health. The company had seen the buzz around their app and was impressed by how quickly it had gained traction. They were interested in exploring a potential partnership that could bring Sarah and Jack's app to an even larger audience. At first, Sarah thought it might be spam. "Golden Years Health," she muttered to herself, squinting at the email. "That sounds too good to be true." But as she read through the message, her heart began to race. The email detailed how Golden Years Health, a company that provided home healthcare services to seniors, wanted to collaborate on a nationwide campaign to promote senior wellness. They had been following the success of Leg Cramps No More and saw it as a perfect fit for their mission. "I can't believe this," Sarah said, running into the living room where Jack was lounging. "We've just been approached by Golden Years Health. They want to partner with us to help seniors nationwide." Jack's eyes widened in surprise. "Wow, that's huge. What do they want from us?" "They want to work together to create a series of wellness initiatives that will incorporate our app," Sarah explained, still in shock. "They're offering to help us distribute it to their network of senior living facilities, health clinics, and even private caregivers. It's an opportunity to really scale our impact." Jack leaned back, his mind racing with possibilities. "This could take everything to the next level. We could reach thousands of new users, get more exposure, and have the resources to expand faster." Sarah nodded, but a lingering question weighed on her mind. "But is it too soon? We've barely scratched the surface with our current launch. Do we want to partner with such a big company so quickly?" Jack considered her concern for a moment. "I get it. It's a big decision, but we've worked hard for this moment. And we've built something special. This could help us reach the people who need it most. Seniors who may not have access to the technology or resources we currently provide. After a few more minutes of discussion, they both agreed that it was an opportunity they couldn't pass up. They decided to set up a meeting with Golden Years Health to explore the potential partnership further. The meeting was scheduled for the following week, and both Sarah and Jack were eager to see what kind of collaboration they could create. The day of the meeting arrived, and Sarah and Jack made their way to the Golden Years Health headquarters. The building was sleek and modern, a symbol of the company's commitment to innovation in senior care. As they walked into the lobby, they were greeted by the company's CEO, Michelle Brooks, a sharp and confident woman in her late 40s. "Welcome, Sarah and Jack," Michelle said, shaking their hands with a smile. "I've heard a lot about your app, and I'm really excited about what we can do together." Sarah and Jack exchanged a look. This was it. The moment that could change everything. After a brief introduction, they sat down in a sleek conference room, surrounded by a team of experts from Golden Years Health. Michelle explained the company's mission and how they had been providing high-quality healthcare services to seniors for over 2 decades. They had a vast network of senior care professionals, clinics, and wellness centers across the country, and they were always looking for new ways to enhance the lives of their clients. "What you've created with Leg Cramps No More is incredible," Michelle said, her tone filled with admiration. "We believe that your app aligns perfectly with our vision. We've been working on a series of wellness initiatives, and we think this app could be a key part of that. Our goal is to help seniors live more independent lives, free from the pain that often holds them back. We see Leg Cramps No More as an essential tool to achieve that." Sarah and Jack listened carefully as Michelle outlined the details of the partnership. Golden Years Health would help with the distribution of the app to their vast network, allowing Sarah and Jack to expand their reach exponentially. They would also co-host educational webinars and workshops to introduce seniors to the app, along with additional resources and support. In return, Sarah and Jack would gain access to Golden Years Health's network, helping them to reach seniors who had not yet heard of their app. The partnership would also provide funding for future development, allowing them to enhance the app's features and expand their educational content. "This sounds amazing," Jack said, his excitement evident. "It's exactly what we've been hoping for. We'll be able to reach so many more seniors and really make an impact on their lives." "I agree," Sarah added. "This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for." Michelle smiled, clearly pleased with their enthusiasm. "I'm thrilled to hear that. We're ready to move forward as soon as you're ready." Over the next few days, Sarah and Jack deliberated on the partnership, weighing the pros and cons. After careful consideration, they decided to take the leap. They signed the agreement with Golden Years Health, committing to a long-term collaboration that would help millions of seniors benefit from Leg Cramps No More. The partnership was announced publicly a week later, and the response was overwhelming. Seniors across the country were excited to hear that they would soon have access to the app through Golden Years Health's network. Health professionals, caregivers, and family members of seniors shared the news, eager to spread the word about the new tool that could change lives. Soon after the announcement, Sarah and Jack were invited to speak at several senior care conferences, where they were able to introduce Leg Cramps No More to a broader audience. Their story was now being shared by industry leaders, and more people were discovering the app and its life-changing potential. As the weeks passed, Sarah and Jack watched as their community grew. The app was now in the hands of thousands of seniors, and the feedback continued to pour in. People were sharing their success stories, how they were finally getting a good night's sleep, how they had been able to walk more freely, and how they no longer feared leg cramps. But it wasn't just about the numbers or the success stories. For Sarah and Jack, it was about knowing they had created something that was making a real difference. And with Golden Years Health support, they knew that the impact would only continue to grow. With the successful launch of their app and the exciting partnership with Golden Years Health, Sarah and Jack felt as though they were on top of the world. They were making an impact, helping seniors live pain-free, and receiving constant feedback from their growing community. But as with any success story, new challenges were on the horizon. One of the biggest challenges they faced was scaling their operations. While their app was gaining traction, they quickly realized that keeping up with the increased demand for customer support, continuous updates, and content creation was not an easy task. The small team they had started with was now stretched thin, and they knew they needed to make some critical decisions about how to handle their rapid growth. "We've got a great problem to have," Sarah said, her voice tired but determined as she sat at her desk, scrolling through customer support tickets. "But it's also overwhelming. I've got 5 new messages from seniors today asking for help with setting up their app. And don't even get me started on the amount of content we need for the next update." Jack nodded, rubbing his temples. "I know. The app's going great, but we're juggling a ton of things. Between creating new features, working on marketing, and keeping up with the demand for help, it feels like we're burning the candle at both ends." They had already brought on a small team of developers to help with the technical side of things and a customer support representative to manage inquiries. But they knew that to continue growing, they would need to expand further. It was time to start thinking bigger. Over the next few days, Sarah and Jack brainstormed solutions. They discussed hiring additional team members, expanding their content creation efforts, and even considering outsourcing some tasks to keep up with their ever-growing to-do list. But there was one more challenge that weighed heavily on Sarah's mind: how could they keep the app fresh and engaging for users? With new health apps constantly popping up on the market, they knew they needed to innovate to stay ahead of the curve. The solution came during a conversation with their product development team. As they discussed possible updates, Sarah had a realization. "What if we integrate more personalized features into the app?" she asked, leaning forward with excitement. "We could create a section where users can input their specific health conditions, and the app could recommend tailored advice for them, whether it's stretches, nutrition tips, or even ways to manage underlying conditions like arthritis." Jack's eyes lit up. "That's genius. If we could offer personalized care for each user, it would set us apart from all the other wellness apps. We're already providing general advice, but this would take it to the next level." Excited by the idea, they immediately set to work with their development team, beginning to create a feature that would allow users to input their health information, like existing medical conditions, age, and activity level, and receive personalized recommendations for leg cramps relief. But it wasn't just about adding new features. Sarah and Jack were committed to keeping their community engaged, and they knew they needed to continue offering fresh content to keep users coming back. They had already incorporated stretching routines and meal plans into the app, but they decided to take it a step further by introducing weekly challenges. "Let's create weekly wellness challenges that encourage seniors to take small steps toward improving their health," Sarah suggested during a team meeting. It could be something simple, like completing a certain number of stretches or drinking more water. The goal is to create a sense of accomplishment and make the process fun. Jack was immediately on board. "We can gamify the experience. Seniors can earn badges or rewards when they complete challenges, and we can create a leaderboard to encourage friendly competition. It'll add some excitement while helping them stay on track." The idea was a hit. Within weeks, the team rolled out the new challenge feature, which was met with immediate enthusiasm. Seniors who had been using the app for months suddenly found themselves more motivated to keep up with their daily routines. The weekly challenges helped them stay engaged and motivated, and the new personalized recommendations made the app feel even more tailored to their needs. But even as Leg Cramps No More continued to evolve, Sarah and Jack couldn't ignore the pressure that came with their success. The team had grown, but they were still facing long hours and stressful days. Sarah had always been a go-getter, but even she was starting to feel the strain. One evening, as they were working late into the night, Sarah turned to Jack with a weary smile. "You know, I thought launching this app would be the hardest part. But I had no idea what it would be like to manage it all once it was out there. There's always something new to do." Jack smiled back, equally exhausted. "I know. But I think we're finally hitting our stride. The app's getting better, the team's growing, and we're making a real difference in people's lives. It's all worth it. Still, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if they were spreading themselves too thin. They had so many ideas for new features and improvements, but at what cost? They had both poured their hearts into this project, and while they were proud of what they had accomplished, they knew they needed to take a step back and find balance. I think we need to take a weekend off, Sarah suggested. We've been working non-stop for months. A little time to recharge might be just what we need to come back stronger. Jack agreed, and they both made a promise to each other to take a much-needed break. They needed to remember why they had started this journey in the first place, to help seniors, and they couldn't do that if they were burnt out. The next weekend, Sarah and Jack took a brief but well-deserved break. They spent a couple of days away from work, relaxing and reconnecting with the world outside of Leg Cramps no more. It was refreshing to unplug and recharge, and by the time they returned to their office, they were more focused than ever. In the following months, Leg Cramps no more continued to grow. They introduced new features, expanded their reach through their partnership with Golden Years Health, and saw a steady increase in downloads. But perhaps most importantly, Sarah and Jack had learned the value of pacing themselves. They were no longer running at full speed, burning themselves out. Instead, they had found a balance that allowed them to keep pushing forward without losing sight of their health and well-being. The road to growth was not without its challenges, but Sarah and Jack were more committed than ever to their mission. Together, they would continue to innovate, expand, and provide seniors with the tools they needed to live pain-free lives. Despite the exhilarating progress Leg Cramps no more had made, Sarah and Jack's journey was far from smooth sailing. The app had become an indispensable tool for seniors dealing with leg cramps, but with great success came great responsibility, and even greater challenges. Just when they thought they had everything figured out, the unexpected happened. One crisp autumn morning, Sarah opened her email inbox to find a troubling message. It was from their App Store account, and her heart sank as she read the subject line, App Suspension Notification. She clicked the email, and her worst fears were confirmed. Leg Cramps no more had been temporarily removed from the App Store due to a policy violation. Jack! Come look at this! Sarah yelled, panic creeping into her voice. Jack rushed over, and Sarah showed him the email. They've suspended us. Jack said, trying to make sense of the situation. But we've followed all the guidelines. What went wrong? Sarah scrolled down the email, which outlined a violation related to a specific feature they had recently added, the personalized health recommendation section. Apparently, their app had triggered an automatic flag for sharing medical advice, which, according to the App Store's policy, was against their guidelines for health apps without proper certification. We didn't anticipate this, Sarah said, frustration mounting. We just wanted to help seniors. This feature was supposed to be a breakthrough, not something that would get us in trouble. Jack ran a hand through his hair, the weight of the situation sinking in. We need to fix this. Fast. We can't afford to be down for long. They immediately reached out to the App Store's support team, explaining their situation and asking for clarification. The team was slow to respond, and the uncertainty left them both feeling helpless. Days turned into weeks as they waited for a resolution, and it was during this time that Sarah and Jack experienced something they hadn't anticipated, a dip in morale. Despite the setbacks, Sarah knew that they couldn't afford to give up. The seniors who depended on their app had made their lives better, and now more than ever, they needed to find a way forward. They had made a promise to their users, and Sarah wasn't about to break it. It's been hard, but we can't stop now, Sarah said one evening after another frustrating day of waiting for a response. We've come too far. We just need to keep pushing. Jack agreed. I know, but it's tough not knowing how long this will take to sort out. Let's stay focused. We can't let this setback define us. That's when Sarah had an idea. Instead of just waiting around for the App Store to respond, Why not use this downtime to improve the app even further? They could develop new features, create more educational content, and work on a new marketing campaign that would be ready to launch as soon as the app was reinstated. It could be a blessing in disguise, Sarah said, her eyes lighting up. We can use this time to get ahead of the competition. Let's create something even better than before. Jack raised an eyebrow, impressed by her resolve. You're right. Let's not waste time. We have the opportunity to make Leg Cramps No More even more useful and engaging. We'll make it so good that when the app goes back up, it'll be a game changer. With renewed energy, they set to work. They brainstormed new features that would enhance the user experience. Their ideas ranged from additional ways to track leg cramps and relieve progress to providing resources on related health conditions, like dehydration and poor circulation, which often contributed to leg cramps in seniors. They also decided to expand the educational content, collaborating with experts in nutrition, stretching, and wellness to provide well-rounded guidance. In the meantime, Sarah and Jack took a deeper dive into the legalities of their app. They hired a consultant who specialized in health app regulations, who helped them navigate the complexities of medical advice guidelines and ensure that the personalized recommendations feature complied with all necessary certifications. It was a painstaking process, but they were determined to get it right. As weeks passed, Sarah and Jack continued their work on the app, but the stress of the suspension still loomed over them. They couldn't help but feel the pressure mounting with each passing day. The team was working hard, but it felt like the clock was ticking, and they couldn't control the outcome. Then, just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, they received a long-awaited email from the App Store support team. Dear Sarah and Jack, we've reviewed your app and the concerns raised. We're happy to inform you that after a thorough examination, we've reinstated Leg Cramps No More on the App Store. The issue with the medical advice feature has been resolved, and we have approved your updated version of the app. Congratulations. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she read the message. Jack, we're back. They've reinstated us. Jack rushed over, reading the email himself. This is amazing. We did it. Our app is live again. But even as the excitement bubbled up inside them, they knew they had to move fast. The improvements they had made during the suspension period were ready to go live, and they wanted to ensure the app came back stronger than ever. The new features, including personalized health tracking, educational content, and updated advice, were rolled out seamlessly. To celebrate their return, they launched a marketing campaign highlighting the improvements and thanking their loyal users for their patience. They also introduced a leg cramp relief kit, a bundle that included new stretch routines, nutritional tips, and a community forum where seniors could share their success stories. The response from users was overwhelming. Thousands of seniors downloaded the app again, eager to try the new features. The educational content and personalized health recommendations helped users feel more in control of their leg cramps, and the sense of community gave them the support they had been missing. For Sarah and Jack, the whole ordeal was a reminder of just how important it was to be adaptable. They had faced a major setback, but through perseverance and creativity, they had come out stronger on the other side. The journey wasn't always easy, but it was a journey worth taking. As the app gained momentum once more, Sarah and Jack were grateful for the lessons learned. They had weathered the storm, and now they were more determined than ever to continue helping seniors live pain-free lives. The triumphant reinstatement of Leg Cramps No More on the App Store was a significant victory, but Sarah and Jack knew that success in the digital world didn't stop with just one win. They had gone through the fire, and now they had a stronger, more refined product, but the next challenge was not far behind. As the app grew in popularity, so did the responsibility they felt toward their users. They had created a tool to help seniors, but they had also inadvertently created a community. One that was leaning on them for more than just an app. Seniors wanted more than just advice on how to relieve leg cramps. They wanted connection, support, and a sense of belonging. It was during one of their monthly team meetings that Sarah and Jack had a conversation that would shift the trajectory of Leg Cramps No More forever. "We've done so well with the features and the content, but I think we're missing something," Sarah said, looking around at the team. "Our users aren't just coming to us for advice, they're coming to us for support. We need to create a space where they can connect with each other, share their stories, and get the encouragement they need." Jack raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "You're saying we should make this more than just an app? A community?" "Exactly," Sarah said. "What if we created a forum within the app where users could post their experiences, share what's worked for them, and offer advice to others? A place where seniors could find a sense of belonging and know they're not alone in dealing with their leg cramps." Jack thought for a moment. "I love that idea. We've built a great tool, but we've never truly built a community around it. What if we could host weekly virtual meetups where users could interact with each other and ask questions directly to health professionals? Imagine the sense of connection that would create." The idea was both exciting and overwhelming. Sarah and Jack knew that adding a community aspect to their app would require significant changes, not just in terms of development, but also in moderation and content management. However, they also realized that it was exactly what their users needed to make their journey more meaningful. They were no longer just offering advice on nutrition or stretches, they were offering a chance for seniors to come together, share their wisdom, and support one another. Within weeks, they had developed a plan. The first step was to create the Leg Cramps No More community hub within the app. This would be a safe space where seniors could post about their experiences, ask questions, and give advice. The second step was to organize weekly virtual meetups with experts in the fields of health, nutrition, and wellness to give users the chance to learn more and engage with professionals. The new feature was launched with great anticipation. Sarah and Jack anxiously waited for feedback, hoping the community would respond positively. The response was beyond what they had imagined. Within the first week, hundreds of seniors began sharing their stories in the community forum. They posted about their struggles, what had worked for them, and offered tips and encouragement to others. It was a heartwarming, deeply human space that quickly became the beating heart of the app. One post that stood out to Sarah and Jack was from a woman named Evelyn, a 76-year-old grandmother from Texas who had been struggling with leg cramps for years. She shared how she had finally found relief by following the app's nutritional advice, but what really struck Sarah was the post's comment section. Other users, many of whom had been suffering from leg cramps for just as long, offered their personal stories, tips, and support. "I used to think I was the only one going through this," one user commented. "But reading Evelyn's post made me realize that I'm not alone. I've learned so much from others here already, and I feel like I have a real community backing me up." Evelyn herself replied, "I've been through the same thing, and I'm so glad I found this group. It's been a game changer for me. Let's all keep sharing and supporting each other." The comments went on, with seniors from across the country chiming in, offering advice, and expressing their gratitude for the space Sarah and Jack had created. It was a moment of pure magic. The app had become more than just a tool, it was now a platform where seniors could thrive, and they were making a real difference in each other's lives. It wasn't long before the weekly virtual meetups became a hit as well. Sarah and Jack invited various health experts to host live Q&A sessions. Topics ranged from nutrition and hydration tips to specific stretching exercises that helped with leg cramps. The users eagerly participated, asking questions, sharing their experiences, and learning from the professionals. One of the most impactful sessions was a conversation with Dr. Michael Harris, a well-known physical therapist who specialized in senior health. He talked about the importance of proper posture, strength training, and how certain foods could alleviate leg cramps. The chat was filled with questions from users who were eager to implement his advice into their routines. For many of them, it was a breakthrough moment. They felt empowered, informed, and connected. But as the community grew, so did the challenge of managing it. Sarah and Jack quickly realized that they needed to implement some form of moderation to keep the space positive and safe for all users. They recruited a small team of community managers who helped ensure that discussions stayed respectful and supportive. They also developed clear community guidelines to make sure that the forum remained a welcoming space for everyone. As the weeks passed, Sarah and Jack saw their app and community flourish. The impact was undeniable. Seniors who had once felt isolated and frustrated with their leg cramps now had a support system at their fingertips. The advice they received wasn't just from experts, it was from people who understood exactly what they were going through. Sarah sat back one evening, reflecting on how far they had come. From a simple idea to help seniors with leg cramps to a thriving community of support and knowledge, they had created something truly special. "Jack, we've done it," Sarah said, smiling at her partner. "We've created a community that goes beyond just solving a problem. We've given people hope." Jack nodded, his pride evident. "I knew we could do it. But honestly, it's the users who have made it all work. They've built this community, and we're just here to support them." Together, Sarah and Jack had built something that transcended an app. They had fostered a space where seniors felt heard, valued, and empowered. It was a community that not only helped them relieve their leg cramps but also gave them the tools to live healthier, more fulfilling lives. Sarah and Jack's journey had come a long way since the humble beginnings of Leg Cramps No More. The app had evolved from just a tool for relief into a full-fledged community of support and education. The success of the community hub, the live sessions, and the powerful connections that had formed between seniors had given them a renewed sense of purpose. But as the app grew, Sarah and Jack began to realize that their mission wasn't finished yet. "Jack, we've helped so many people with their leg cramps," Sarah said one morning, sipping her coffee in the conference room. "But I can't shake the feeling that we're only scratching the surface. There are so many other health issues that seniors face that we could help with. What if we could expand Leg Cramps No More to become a broader wellness platform for seniors?" Jack leaned back in his chair, contemplating the idea. "You mean turning the app into a one-stop shop for senior health? That's huge." "I know it's big, but hear me out," Sarah continued. "We've already built a loyal user base who trusts us, and we've seen firsthand how much they benefit from the advice and connections we provide. What if we could extend that into other areas of senior health, things like mobility, mental well-being, and even chronic conditions like arthritis?" Jack's eyes lit up. "It makes sense. There are so many resources for senior health, but nothing that offers it all in one place. We could help people with the whole picture, their physical health, their mental health, and everything in between." Sarah and Jack had always believed in the power of holistic health, addressing the mind, body, and spirit as interconnected elements. They realized that they had the opportunity to revolutionize the way seniors managed their health, creating a space where they could find not only solutions to their leg cramps but also guidance on a variety of health topics. The decision was made. Leg Cramps No More would expand its mission. It was time to broaden the platform and offer more resources for seniors to live healthier, happier lives, regardless of the challenges they faced. But expansion wasn't going to be easy. Sarah and Jack knew that they would need to bring in experts from different fields of senior health. Nutritionists, physical therapists, mental health professionals, and other specialists. They would need to design new content and features that would address a wider range of issues. It would take time, effort, and careful planning. "We're going to need to form partnerships with healthcare professionals, maybe even develop some exclusive courses or workshops," Sarah said. "We can bring in experts to host live webinars on topics like stress management, fall prevention, managing arthritis pain, and more. And we can create resources, guides, videos, articles, that users can easily access." Jack nodded, feeling the weight of the task ahead. "We'll also need to make sure the app's interface is simple and user-friendly. We want to make it as easy as possible for seniors to navigate, especially those who aren't as tech-savvy." It was clear that this would be a massive undertaking, but the potential was undeniable. With their existing community of engaged users and a dedicated team behind them, Sarah and Jack felt ready to tackle the challenge. As they began to plan the expansion, they kept one principle at the forefront: they wanted the app to remain a source of hope, empowerment, and community. It wasn't just about offering advice, it was about creating a space where seniors could feel like they had control over their health, no matter their circumstances. They reached out to a variety of experts in the senior health space. Dr. Laura Thompson, a renowned geriatric nutritionist, agreed to collaborate on a new nutritional guide for seniors, focusing on foods that could improve joint health, boost energy, and prevent cramps. Robert Harris, a physical therapist with over 30 years of experience, was brought in to design a series of low-impact exercises specifically tailored to seniors. But the real turning point came when Sarah and Jack decided to introduce a new feature: personalized wellness plans. This feature would allow users to input their specific health concerns, whether it was leg cramps, arthritis, anxiety, or sleep issues, and receive customized guidance, including exercise routines, meal plans, and stress relief techniques. The plans would be designed by the experts they had brought on board and would evolve over time based on user feedback and progress. The new plans would be accessible to all users, whether they were looking to manage a chronic condition or simply maintain a healthy lifestyle. The idea was to create a personalized experience for each senior, ensuring they received the help they needed to live their best life. The launch of the expanded platform was a carefully orchestrated event. Sarah and Jack decided to roll out the new features gradually, starting with a small group of beta testers. This would give them the chance to gather feedback and make any necessary improvements before they released the platform to the wider public. The beta testing phase was a resounding success. Seniors were thrilled with the new features, especially the personalized wellness plans. They loved the idea of having a tailored health plan that addressed their unique needs, and they appreciated the support they received from experts and the broader community. Users raved about how the app had transformed from just a tool for leg cramps into a comprehensive wellness platform that could help with so many aspects of their health. "I never thought I'd find something that could help me with my arthritis pain and leg cramps at the same time," one user wrote in the app's feedback section. "The personalized wellness plan gave me a new outlook on my health. I feel more empowered than ever before." After receiving overwhelmingly positive feedback from the beta testers, Sarah and Jack knew it was time to roll out the new features to the entire user base. The official launch was celebrated with a live-streamed event, where they introduced the new features, showcased success stories, and provided exclusive discounts on wellness products and services. As the new platform went live, the response from users was nothing short of remarkable. Within the first month, the app saw a dramatic increase in downloads, and user engagement skyrocketed. The community grew even stronger as seniors shared their success stories, exchanged tips, and supported each other on their wellness journeys. But the most rewarding part for Sarah and Jack was seeing the profound impact their work was having on people's lives. Seniors who had struggled with multiple health challenges now had a place where they could find personalized solutions, access expert advice, and connect with others who understood their experiences. They were no longer isolated in their struggles, they were part of something bigger. Sarah sat back one evening, reflecting on the journey that had brought her and Jack to this point. "We started with leg cramps, but now we're helping people live healthier lives in so many ways." Jack smiled, feeling the weight of their success. "And we're just getting started." The success of Leg Cramps No More had far exceeded Sarah and Jack's initial expectations. What started as a small initiative to help seniors manage leg cramps had blossomed into a full-fledged wellness platform, offering everything from personalized health plans to expert-led webinars. But even with all their accomplishments, they both knew that the true power of their platform was in the ripple effect they had started, a movement to empower seniors and change how they viewed their health. It was one late afternoon when Sarah and Jack sat down in their now familiar conference room, which had become the hub for their growing business. There was a sense of quiet pride in the air, yet also an urgency, as if they knew the work was far from done. "Jack, do you remember when we first started this? It was all about helping people stop leg cramps," Sarah said, her voice soft but steady as she gazed out the window. "And now look at us. We've touched so many lives. But I can't help but think there's more we can do." Jack turned in his chair to face her, sensing the weight in her words. "You're thinking bigger, aren't you?" Sarah nodded. "What if Leg Cramps No More wasn't just for seniors with leg cramps? What if we could branch out to helping seniors with more complex health issues? What if we could change the narrative around aging itself?" Jack's eyebrows furrowed slightly as he processed her words. "Are you saying we expand beyond just the app? To something more integrated, more impactful?" "Yes. I think we've built something incredible with the app, but the next step is to take this beyond digital. We need to make this a movement for all seniors, not just those dealing with leg cramps. There's a huge demographic out there, people struggling with aging, feeling isolated, dealing with mental health challenges, and physical ailments. We can make a real difference by broadening our reach." Jack thought about it for a moment. "So, we're talking about an even larger initiative, something that doesn't just address individual symptoms but focuses on the holistic well-being of seniors as a whole." "Exactly. But how do we make this happen on a large scale? It's not enough just to provide the app and wait for people to come. We need to meet seniors where they are, whether that's in local communities, online, or even through partnerships with healthcare organizations." The vision was clear, and the more they talked, the more the possibilities unfolded. It became evident that they had the chance to not just reach more seniors but to fundamentally change how aging was perceived in society. They decided to launch a nationwide campaign to raise awareness of the new platform, focusing on seniors' health in its entirety. The campaign would highlight real stories from the Leg Cramps No More community, showing how their app had already improved users' lives in many areas beyond leg cramps, stories of improved mobility, better sleep, reduced anxiety, and a deeper sense of connection. The centerpiece of the campaign would be a documentary-style video series called The Age of Empowerment. It would feature real seniors who had turned their health around using the platform, telling their personal stories of transformation. The series would air on multiple platforms, including YouTube, social media, and local television stations, as a way to normalize the conversation around aging and emphasize that it was never too late to take charge of your health. In addition, Sarah and Jack decided to reach out to senior living communities, partnering with these centers to bring the Leg Cramps No More platform directly to the people who could benefit from it most. They'd offer free workshops, personalized health consultations, and seminars on aging well. The campaign would also include a new initiative they called the Seniors Health Ambassador Program. They would invite dedicated users of the app to become ambassadors for the platform, helping spread the word and supporting others in their local communities. These ambassadors would receive training on how to host wellness events, provide peer support, and foster a sense of belonging among seniors in their area. The response to their campaign was nothing short of inspiring. As the documentary-style video series aired, stories flooded in from seniors all over the country. There was Clara from Chicago, a 70-year-old grandmother who had been bedridden for years due to arthritis pain but had found relief through the app's customized wellness plans. There was Mark, an 82-year-old retired teacher from California who had been struggling with sleep deprivation and anxiety but was now thriving thanks to the resources on the platform. And then there was Henry and Evelyn, the couple from Florida who had struggled with leg cramps for years but had regained their mobility and confidence after implementing the app's exercise routines. Each story was more heartwarming than the last, and they captured the attention of viewers everywhere. Seniors, who had once felt invisible in society, were now being seen and heard. The Leg Cramps No More community began to expand exponentially. Seniors who had never heard of the platform before now joined the app in droves, eager to improve their health and take control of their well-being. Local senior living centers reached out to Sarah and Jack to discuss partnerships, offering to integrate the platform into their programs. Healthcare professionals began recommending the app to their patients, seeing its potential to help seniors manage their health in a more holistic way. One evening, as Sarah watched the documentary's final cut before it was sent to broadcast, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. The journey they had embarked on had turned into something much bigger than she had ever imagined. "Jack, look at what we've created," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "This is more than just an app. This is a movement. We've given seniors the tools they need to live better, longer lives. We've helped them regain their dignity, their sense of purpose. Jack sat next to her, a proud smile crossing his face. We've made a real difference. And it's only the beginning. The campaign continued to grow, reaching new corners of the country and changing the lives of countless seniors. The Leg Cramps No More platform had evolved into a powerful movement, one that not only focused on physical health but also gave seniors the emotional and social support they needed to thrive in their golden years. As the movement gained momentum, Sarah and Jack knew that their work wasn't finished. They had accomplished so much, but there was still more to do, more lives to touch, more barriers to break down. But for now, they sat back and savored the success they had achieved, knowing that they had created something that would outlast them. Something that would empower generations of seniors to live their healthiest, happiest lives. As Sarah and Jack stood on the balcony of their office building one evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, they couldn't help but reflect on how far they had come. The city below them buzzed with life, but for a moment, everything felt still. The feeling of accomplishment was overwhelming, but it was also bittersweet, because, while they had achieved so much, they both knew that the journey was not just about them, but about something much larger. "Can you believe it?" Jack said, his voice soft but filled with wonder. What started as a small idea to help seniors with leg cramps has grown into a full-blown movement. "I never imagined we'd reach this level." Sarah smiled, looking out over the city with him. "I know. It's surreal. But it's also a reminder that no matter how small the idea, if you have the right people, the right mission, and a lot of heart, anything is possible." Together, they had turned Leg Cramps No More from a niche app into a comprehensive health platform that had empowered hundreds of thousands of seniors to reclaim control over their health. The app was no longer just a tool for relieving leg cramps, it had transformed into a lifeline for seniors facing a variety of health challenges. The final piece of their expansion was underway, the Senior Health Network. This network, a partnership with healthcare organizations, senior living communities, and local wellness centers, aimed to provide physical, emotional, and mental health resources for seniors in every corner of the country. The network would be the culmination of everything Sarah and Jack had worked for, a way to create lasting, positive change for seniors, no matter where they lived. It wasn't just the app anymore. It was a movement, a revolution in how aging was understood. And Sarah and Jack were at the heart of it, driving change, inspiring others, and advocating for seniors everywhere. As the official launch of the Senior Health Network loomed, they received messages of gratitude from across the country. Seniors who had used the app shared their success stories, describing how their lives had been transformed. The feedback was overwhelming. There was Lily, who had been living alone in a small town in Texas. After discovering Leg Cramps No More, she had not only gotten her leg cramps under control but had also become a health ambassador, helping others in her community. She wrote to Sarah, saying, "I never thought I could have my health back. But now, I'm more active, more involved, and I even host weekly wellness sessions at my local senior center. Thank you for giving me my life back." Then there was Charles, a retired fireman in Arizona who had struggled with depression and isolation after his wife passed away. He had found comfort in the app's community support and had joined virtual therapy sessions and exercise routines. "I never realized how important it was to connect with others until I found Leg Cramps No More. It's not just the cramps, it's the whole way of life you've given me." These stories filled Sarah's heart with warmth. The more she thought about it, the more she realized the true impact of what they had built. They weren't just offering advice on food or exercise. They were offering connection, hope, and dignity to a demographic that had often been overlooked. "Jack, look at this," Sarah said, showing him a testimonial from Clara, the woman from Chicago who had once been bedridden due to arthritis. She had started using the platform's personalized wellness plans and was now living a more active and joyful life. "This is why we did it." It wasn't just about the app, it was about giving people like Clara a chance to live their best life. To feel seen. Jack looked at the testimonials with a nod of agreement. And the legacy of this movement? It's going to keep growing. We've built something that will last. They had become not just leaders in health and wellness but advocates for the aging population. Through Leg Cramps No More, the Senior Health Network, and the powerful stories of the people they helped, Sarah and Jack had begun to shift the narrative around aging. They had shown the world that aging wasn't a time of decline, it was a time of empowerment. In their final meeting with their team, Sarah and Jack discussed their next steps. They were confident that the Senior Health Network would continue to thrive, thanks to the foundation they had built. But they were also excited about the new opportunities to impact lives, opportunities that included expanding internationally, bringing their message to seniors around the world. People deserve to know that no matter their age, they can live a life full of purpose and vitality, Sarah said, a renewed sense of determination in her voice. Our work will never be done. But that's the best part. The room was filled with smiles and nods of agreement. Everyone in the room knew they had been part of something monumental. They had taken a simple idea and turned it into a global movement that would change the way the world viewed aging forever. As Sarah and Jack walked out of their office for the last time that day, they felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They had done it. They had created something that would leave a lasting impact on generations of seniors to come. But even as they celebrated the accomplishments of the past, they knew their work wasn't over. In the end, it wasn't just about stopping leg cramps in seniors. It was about giving them the tools, support, and confidence they needed to live their fullest, healthiest lives. And in doing so, Sarah and Jack had sparked a revolution, one that would empower seniors to take control of their health for years to come. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?